Welcome back to another episode of the Lads Talking Footy podcast. Myself, Sam, joined with Jordan Tana, Simon Anderson. Lads, how are we?
Good. A little bit sick, to be honest. You can blame, if I'm sounding a little bit off today, you can blame old numbnuts over here for giving me the sickness in the last episode. So,
Hey, someone was talking a lot of shit about weak immune systems, and look who's got sick.
Well, it's hard to have a strong immune system when you're with an absolute super spreader. No, jokes.
I'm sitting here feeling pretty fine. So,
Hey, well, you wait.
Oh, touch wood, touch
We'll
wood.
see next episode.
All right, now we've got another stack show and for you guys. Same of the old good UFC, Super Rugby and NRL. Absolutely stacked card of UFC. UFC 287, boys.
It's time!
Jordan, do you want to take us away, mate?
Yeah, bro. So UFC 287, a really stacked card, really good card. I know I've been saying this for all the pay-per-view cards so far this year, but they have all been very deep and very impressive. So another one up our hands this week. And hey, we'll start with the co-main event in terms of what we're going to cover. Gilbert Burns takes on Jorge Masvidal. Jorge, the superstar Masvidal, comes back. Always good to see him back in the cage. Simon, where do you stand with this one?
Well, this is a fan favorite. You know, we talk about some fights just being ones where, regardless of the result, the fans win. And this is one of them. This is a huge match that, game bred. Jorge, he's great at talking up a fight. He's talking lots of smack. He's made a few predictions himself. He's talking a lot about how he's more dominant on the feet. He's pitting Burns as a crotch sniffer, as he says. He said he reckon he's going to take him down. I don't know if that's kind of like a bit of reverse psychology to try and prevent it.
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah, I mean, if we look at how this fight unfolds, matching the skill sets, Jorge, we've seen it against Usman. He's a fantastic striker with really good wrestling defense. He loves to stay on the feet, so he's put a lot of training and effort into being able to get off the cage, stay off the mat, and put his hands on people. And going up against Gilbert Burns, who is no slouch on the feet, loves to strike, but has an edge in the grappling and the jiu-jitsu side of things. It's going to be interesting. I think it does stay standing a lot of the time. I don't think Gilbert's a guy who just goes for where he's got the advantage. I think he likes to be comfortable on the feet. So I'm seeing a lot of stand-up exchanges. I'm seeing Jorge probably going to win the majority of them. And if we're getting into a prediction early, I'm thinking it's going to be tough for either of them to go lights out. I'm going to say it's probably going to be a Jorge decision.
Wow. Okay. Very interesting. Well, if we're looking at the odds, if we are going an early prediction, we do have Gilbert Burns as the favourite at $1.20.
Wow.
And Jorge Masvidal as the underdog at, get this, $4.35. So
Wow, I must
That's
have it
crazy
really wrong.
odds. I mean, I haven't watched a lot of Masvidal fight, but Burns looked pretty impressive in his last one. I've heard a lot about Masvidal sort of coming in, but I mean, odds like that are pretty wild. To the punter, it makes me want to stay safe.
yeah,
and
well,
stick with Burns.
these odds are extremely disrespectful, in my opinion, to Jorge
think so.
Masvidal. You aren't wrong in considering Jorge Masvidal for this fight. I believe he has a really solid chance. Like you said, he has really good takedown defense, and he definitely has an advantage on the feet. He is a really ferocious striker. He has very quick hands, and he throws a lot of ferocity into his combinations and draws his combinations out well. And I also believe he has very nasty body kick work. So in terms of just standing on the feet, although Gilbert has improved and has showed a lot of durability in his Chimaev fight and a lot of toughness and a lot of power in some of his fights, knocking out Damian Maia, and then I forget who was the one before that, but he dropped Kamaru Usman as well. It is dicey for Masvidal to just stay on the feet, but you'd have to consider him the guy with the advantage in that department. Although he has that advantage, I believe that Gilbert Burns has shown that he is not afraid to win at all measures in his last couple of fights. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, you saw him just hold him down for, as long as he could to get the win. And then also Neil Magny, he took him down and finished him really quickly with a head and arm triangle. So Gilbert Burns has that in his back pocket, and I think he will utilize it.
He's got to utilise it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm looking here, and Masvidal's got a significant reach advantage on him.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'm liking what I'm seeing from Burns. I'm not an experienced watcher in the UFC department, but I was impressed with what I saw from him last time, and that's sort of where I'd be leaning in this as well.
Yeah, so I am leaning that way too. I'm going to go Gilbert Burns by decision. I'm going to say it's a close decision though. I think it is really likely that Jorge could drop him in a round. So I would say like a Burns 29-28 decision. But we've just seen Masvidal against the elite grapplers, and I would put Burns in that category as an elite grappler, get controlled throughout a fight, hard to finish, hard to submit, besides the, like way back, the inverted triangle choke he got done by some Asian guy, I forget his name. But yeah, he is extremely hard to finish, and he's getting up there in age now. I know there's only 2 years difference between them, but he's 38. He's 2 years older than Burns, but Burns has been more active.
Yeah.
Masvidal has been very inactive, and I think you'll start to see him maybe slow down a little bit more than a Burns would.
Well, Masvidal, I'm not speaking out of turn here, but I believe he's always had a pretty good cardio.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, so I'm thinking that he probably won't slow down too much, but it is such a huge question mark, the
No,
time
I'm not
off.
talking about slowing down throughout the fight. I'm talking I see him as a guy with lightning fast hand speed.
Right.
And the ability to like close the distance really well. I think, you take little microseconds off of that and you slow down with age.
Yeah, I mean, just there's not much in between them. You look at the caliber that both fighters have had leading up to this. Jorge probably the better of the two, fighting against champions and potential champions like Colby. But this fight has a bigger picture than just the two of these guys settling who's best, because the next contender race for this belt is very interesting.
It's up in the air.
Yeah, you've got Colby staking the claim. You've got Dana saying that he's next, but potentially both of these fighters are thinking, well, screw that. If I put a good performance, I finish this guy, I can start demanding that I'm next, or line themselves up as the guy to be the challenger, or whoever wins out of Leon and Colby if that goes down. So yeah, this fight has a lot of implications for the division, and it's exciting.
Yeah, for sure. And then obviously main event, UFC middleweight. Oh, sorry. Did you have a prediction for that fight?
Yeah, I'm going with Burns.
Burns as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm in the minority here, I see.
No, that's all right. I mean, $4.35, you can definitely make that up if you take a good underdog there. So anyway, middleweight title match. Alex Pereira takes on Israel Adesanya in the rematch between these two in MMA. Fourth fight overall, all won by Alex Pereira. But man, two of the best kickboxers in, I would say, UFC history clash again. Always love to see it. Start with you, Simon. How do you see this match going, and where?
I've really struggled to get an unbiased take leading into this one, because I am a bit of an Izzy diehard. So, the heart is just kind of overriding the mind a lot and saying we want Izzy to hear and you again to to reclaim his belt. So, putting the emotion aside, I think if you look at who the fighters are and what they're most likely been training leading into this, I'm assuming Pereira's spent a lot of time diversifying his skill set, getting a lot more comfortable getting up off the ground and protecting himself from ending up on the mat. I think Izzy's probably spent a lot of time being a lot more dangerous on the feet. I don't expect Izzy to fight a ground dominant fight. I think what we'll see is, well, I hope to see is Izzy might threaten the takedown early just to kind of mitigate some of the pressure that Pereira was bringing to him. You saw...
Keep a little bit of distance as well.
Exactly.
What I will say about the whole grappling element of this fight is that in the first fight, the grappling exchanges were, for the majority, initiated by Alex Pereira. The takedown in round 3, in which Israel Adesanya was able to control Alex Pereira, was actually a reverse
Reversal,
and a trip.
yeah.
So there obviously is levels between them, but I still don't see it as Israel, going to that in terms of his options.
Yeah, I feel like it just gives Pereira another thing to think about, and it allows Izzy to keep the distance a lot more, kind of mitigate that forward pressure. And you saw that in the interviews afterwards, Pereira put a lot of emphasis on the fact that when Izzy was pinned up against the cage, he wasn't throwing, because that was the way that Izzy escapes the cage. Izzy waits for a strike, counters, and moves out the way, and he was just waiting, and then piecing him up and not moving. So I think if...
especially in that 5th round, his movement went out the window, and he was more inclined to initiate the clinch as opposed to his movement in the earlier rounds. So
yeah, and if you listen to Izzy, you never know how much of that was due to the leg injury that he claimed, from the leg kicks, and how much his movement was reduced. So we could see a very different fight, but my money and the brain goes on a very similar fight. I see Izzy pointing away through the very early rounds. I mean, it's going to be a slow start, I would say. And I want to see a TKO just so it's a definitive Israel finish. But yeah, I mean, that big stone block head of his, besides being flashed in the first round, I don't see a finish from Izzy
he's
likely.
durable.
Yeah, so I'm going to see a very similar end to the last fight, but we're not getting knocked out this time, Izzy. We're going to get the decision.
Israel decision. All right, Sam, where are you leaning in this contest?
So to start with, can you just give me the head-to-head odds on Izzy?
Yeah, so you've got Alex Pereira at $2.11 and underdog as the champion, which is interesting.
Interesting, yeah.
And Israel Adesanya $1.69 favorite.
Okay, well, to start off with, the TAB are currently offering bet on Adesanya to win and get a bonus bet back of up to $50 if
Wow,
he
there you
loses.
go.
Okay.
So just throw that on Izzy for a win and you're getting up to $50 back to bet on the Waz if you want.
Yeah.
Or it's going to come through and you can put it back on the Waz. As for the fight, look, I'm pretty excited for this. This is the first time that we're seeing Izzy as not the the guy that's coming in as the champion. He's the challenger, so he's going to have to potentially come after this fight if he wants the title instead of sitting back and defending it a little bit. So I'm interested to see how he approaches that and sort of his tactics that come into it. You mentioned the leg kicks that he suffered last time. I think Izzy's going to go after those a little bit more himself and start to sort of keep Pereira sort of on his heels a little bit and just get his mind off that knockout. As for the result as well, I'm leaning towards Izzy on a decision.
Okay.
But that's with my heart, maybe not my mind. I'm worried about those knees from Pereira again.
Hey, no, I mean, Israel is a really live, well, he's a favorite, but he is definitely a chance to win this fight. We've seen the whole first fight, he was in control about 3 rounds to 1 going into that 5th round. And then, just got off his bike and started, not trying to do the things that had him get that lead in the first place. So,
And the things that he's had success with throughout all of his campaign
exactly.
as well.
Sort of went a little bit within himself. But in terms of kickboxing skills, these two are completely inseparable. They're both adept at checking and landing leg kicks. They're both really fundamentally sound. They've both got really good jabs, really slick movement. And they've both got dynamic techniques as well that keeps each other honest. So
Whenever I look at Alex Pereira as well, I just think, fuck, that guy is a scary looking motherfucker.
well, that's what I was going to say. That in terms of just straight skill sets, they are pretty much the same, but it's the power and the willingness to engage and move forward. He's kind of like a marauder. He just goes forward and
He's got that scrap in him.
he definitely does. And he's just got the absolute power of maybe the most dangerous weapon in mixed martial arts, the left hook. So if I am leaning to anyone, it is Alex Pereira. And we have talked about the grappling advantage that Israel has had, that he showed, in the first fight. And if you're ever going to close a gap in that department with Glover in your corner, it's going to be done. So I'm going to lean Alex Pereira. I know I'm not the most patriotic person on the show, but
Look, I can see where you're coming from, and honestly, I was sort of leaning a little bit to that way in the first fight between them, but it was a lot of unknown for me, I just, again, you see him and you don't know what to expect. There's this explosion of power or something, and I mean, if either of these fighters just cop something on the chin and get them wobbling, it's lights out for either.
Well, if there's anyone that could be the best in the world at the give one to take one to give one policy, it would be Alex Pereira. So I'm going to go Alex Pereira. I've got Alex Pereira by KO in the 3rd round. I think he's going to be a little bit more comfortable because that was his first big UFC fight, big main event UFC fight. He's going to be a little bit more comfortable with all aspects, the pressure, Israel. Yeah. And I think he's going to get it done early. I've got round 3 knockout at $3.40 for the knockout and $14 for round 3.
Wow.
Shit, that's tasty. Yeah,
So
I like it.
On those odds, I was watching a breakdown. It was actually opened the other way around. Izzy opened as the underdog, and so there must have been a bit of a money.
I thought he would have opened as underdog too.
Yeah, so there must have been a bit of money move on Izzy, and so they had to reverse the odds around. But yeah, I mean,
People obviously saw that and jumped on early.
Yeah. But to put it simply, Izzy's versing a heavyweight on fight day. You know, like the weight that he puts back on after he cuts, he's running around 220. So yeah, he's a big man.
Yeah, for sure. So hey, it's going to be a great fight. I'm
real
all into
excited.
watching it. Yeah, it's going to be a good sit down on the Sunday afternoon. There's a few other good fights on that card though. I'd like to get some quick picks from you, Simon, in terms of who's going to be winning some of these other really good fights because, like we said, it's a really deep card.
So deep. You've got ranked fighters as the featured prelim. It's crazy.
Yeah, I know. Great stuff. So we've got Rob Font versus Adrian Yanez in the feature fight. Who are you going for that one?
Yeah, well, I mean, looking at the lead-in, very different stories. You've got Rob Font aging out of the division. For him, he's a bit old. Yanez on a huge 9-fight win streak, 5 in the UFC. But yeah, I don't know. It's not the same caliber that that Rob Font's been fighting. I'm going to go with Font's probably got still enough in the tank. I'm going to go decision, for Font.
Yep, and I like your thinking because I see it going a similar way, but I'm actually going to take Yanez by round 2 TKO. I believe that Font will be looking the better of the two, but the damage he suffered in his last fight to Vera is, a little concerning, and he was getting dropped all over the show. I know he showed toughness, but he was also getting dropped all over the show against Aldo, so I think the chin could definitely go here at 35 years old, so I'm going to take Yanez, round 2 TKO.
Okay.
The next fight on the card, Kevin Holland takes on Santiago Ponzinibbio.
I'll jump in here quickly. I'm excited for this fight.
Oh, this should be a banger.
Holland was just incredible in that last hit out for him. And I can't wait to see what he brings to the table in this.
Santiago Ponzinibbio, he is an absolute dog as well. He always has really entertaining scraps. So they've done really well in terms of
match this up.
in terms of matchmaking. Simon, where are you going with this one?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a fan favorite. This is another one like the co-main. Excuse me. Fireworks are plenty. But after the gentleman's agreement that Holland made with Wonderboy to keep it standing and to avoid the takedowns, I think...
Silly.
If this man has any, wish to pursue his ranking career and fight for a belt, he's going to take it to the ground. I think he's got a huge edge in the wrestling and in the jiu-jitsu. No?
No, I don't think so. No, Ponzinibbio is good enough.
Okay, well, we'll see on Sunday, but that's where I think Holland's going to try and win the fight because stand up, he's got the better striking capability, but Ponzinibbio's a bit of a marauder, like you said for Pereira. He's going to walk forward, he's going to really try and push the pace, which Holland may find a little bit uncomfortable, and I think he's going to find some comfort on the ground. I'm going for a Holland, and I'm going to say last round win or decision for Holland.
Okay. Massive disconnect in terms of our picks. I'm going Kevin Holland by round 1 TKO.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
I
think he's going to come out hot. We've seen Santiago. His chin isn't quite what it used to be before he got really ill. He got knocked out early by Li Jingliang. He was getting touched up by Alex Morono in his last fight, and Morono took that on short notice. So I like Kevin Holland's chances here. I'm a really big Santiago fan, but I think Holland can come out, use his massive wingspan, and put it on Santiago Ponzinibbio and put him down early. So
hey, I would love to see that outcome. I guess I just hadn't thought that far through. But I would love to see Holland come out early and weaken that chin. But I guess I'm putting a little bit more respect on Ponzinibbio's name than you.
Yeah, well, no, I'm saying it's going to be an absolute firefight. Like we've seen back and forth firefights in one round, and that's what I'm thinking here. I'm thinking Holland's just got the reach to land the more effective shots. So
sometimes 5 minutes is an age, right?
Yeah,
and then
exactly.
sometimes 5 minutes just races by. So round 1. Put some money on it.
Okay, and then the next fight on the card, an absolute prospect, 18-year-old Raul Rosas Jr. takes on Christian Rodriguez, who is a relative unknown. Simon, do you have a pick for this one?
I haven't actually seen any of Rodriguez's first 2 fights. I know he's 1-1 looking at his record, and then looking deeper into his record outside of the UFC, he's got a lot of finishes by TKO. So compared to Raul Rosas, who's just exclusively submission wins. So that could be the difference. When there's 2 grapplers in a ring, they like to stand and see who's got the better hands and throw some, washing machine hooks. So that could be the difference. You could see Rodriguez get the win, but just based off the footage I've seen, I'm just going to back Rosas to get the sub. Haven't picked a round, but probably later in the rounds.
Okay, yeah. And did you have a take on this one?
I'm excited to see this. So I've heard a lot of hype around Rosas as well, and I haven't watched any of his fights live. So, I'm looking at it right now, and there's not a lot of history on both ends for these fighters. So one of them's got to come into the UFC and they've got to make a statement. And if Rosas has got all of this hype around him, I'm looking to see something quite convincing from the young lad, and he might be targeting this one. So I'm excited to watch it.
Yeah, so I'm going to back Rosas as well. He's obviously... The UFC would be doing him favors with the matchmaking. I don't know too much about Christian Rodriguez as well. I know that he's tough, and I know that he's not an easy out. He... I don't believe he was finished by JSP, and Jonathan Pierce is a ranked fighter now in the featherweight division, a division up. So Rodriguez might be tough. So I'm going to actually take Rosas as a unanimous decision, 29-28. But hey, he's a young prospect, and I expect big things from him as well. 18 years old.
That's crazy. Bro. Yeah.
He's the Suwali of UFC. So
This fight's in Miami as well, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
So he's got a good crowd to sort of make some waves in front of. And I'm looking forward to it.
Sweet. And then the feature prelim, we'll do the last fight that we'll cover, is one of the crowd favorites, Calvin Gastelum, takes on another surging contender at the moment, Chris Curtis. Simon, Where are you leaning in this one?
Yeah, see, I think there's a bit of a theme emerging on some of these fights. You've got a guy who's got an established ranking, fought a lot of high quality ranked opponents and had a couple losses versus a guy who's getting a name for himself, stringing some wins together, looking to come up the ranks, but hasn't fought the same caliber of the fighters that his opponent has. And this is a very good example of it. Gastelum having a few struggles with some recent losses, but to some really good opponents in the top of the middleweight division. And then you've got Curtis, who's strung a few wins together on, some unranked guys. So I think it's going to be tough for Curtis, who's a very strike-heavy fighter, to put, the iron chin of Gastelum away. We've seen Adesanya weaken it. We've seen a few people take shots at it, but I'm thinking it's probably going to be a bit of a war. And we've seen Gastelum go 5 rounds with Adesanya and push him right to the very edge. So I think it's going to be another back and forth fight, but I think Gastelum's got the credentials to get this done. I'm picking decision.
Yeah, and I fully agree with you. It's going to be an absolute firefight. You've got two real boxing heavy approaches. I'd maybe lean to, I don't know. They both got about the same amount of power. It's going to be an absolute firefight. So I've actually got Gastelum down here for a split decision. So I believe he might get dropped in one of the rounds and it might be a little bit dicey, but I think I could see the majority of the good shots coming from the Gastelum side. And then also he does have, wrestling chops that he can go to. I don't believe he will, but if he does need it, it's there for him. So I'm going to actually lean to Gastelum, but super, super tough fight to pick.
Keep this one out your multis.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, well, that's UFC wrapped up for us. We got Easter weekend, you got Easter Sunday. Grab yourself a box of beers, settle down and have yourself a good afternoon. Put a bit of money on it. Make sure you drink all those beers because you got Monday off. And yeah, I'm looking forward to this one. All right, let's get into the Super Rugby. Now the Crusaders take on Moana Pacifica on Friday. The Crusaders beat the Reds 25-12. I'll kick it off with the Crusaders' performance. Whainganuku again is just showing the New Zealand winger stocks are well and healthy. He's scored the first try in the match 2 weeks in a row now, so it might be worth a little bit of jam putting a first-time try scorer on Whainganuku in this coming matchup. The young Noah Hoffman looked quite comfortable at 9, which was it was good to see. Like, he didn't stand out for the Crusaders, but you're a young 9 coming into an All Black pack, and I was really impressed with his performance.
But besides the one shocker he did where he put it out in the full, I thought for the most part he kicked quite well.
Yeah, and he had a lot of time control in that pack around as well. He set up a few good breaks for them too. So I was really impressed with him. It just sort of reiterates the next wave of Crusader talent coming through is it's still there. The Reds were going down the right-hand side, though, for the Crusaders throughout the match and found some success in that, which is one thing that I think some teams may exploit moving forward too. So what did you guys take away from the game?
Yeah, so it's kind of another meh performance from the Crusaders. They're back to the form that they had before the Blues game, and it's fucking annoying that they just showed up and had an elite Crusaders performance against
I don't know what to expect each
us
week.
Blues. So, yeah, a little bit annoying, but... yeah, I know there's a lot of injuries, but they just don't give me the same Crusaders clinical vibe. There's quite a few errors and stuff like that, and they're quite vulnerable on the edges defensively. You are right, though. They don't get broken at all up the middle.
Nah.
And that is something they can hang their hat on. But, yeah...
they get broken on the edge, though, and they do get it
and
easy.
quite regularly. And they were actually quite lucky that the Reds were wasting quite a few opportunities and giving away penalties and stuff like that when they did... break them and get themselves in good territory. So not a world-beating performance by the Crusaders, but tick it up as a dub and something you can kind of hang your hat on. Sam Christie, I will mention his name again.
Yeah,
Really effective at the breakdown and really just busy around the field. So, hey, man, you got a workhorse down there in Canterbury. Usually the case.
Yeah, well, I mean, the Crusaders are a team who, in years gone by, have always relied on their All Blacks to carry the pedigree of the team through the season. So, with the injuries out, maybe that's
they're having to rely on some different shoulders.
Yeah,
that's a very good point.
Yeah.
So it is quite harsh to critique them on maybe execution, but
Yeah, well, I mean, if you're gonna win the Super Rugby comp and at least make the finals, you know that you're gonna lose some starters to the international season. So you've got to invest early in these opportunities for them to run up, wins in against Australian teams with the B team, as you will, like the Blues and Chiefs have done in previous weeks. It's good signs. So not worrisome signs. The being weak on the edges though is something you can fix. It's probably
it is.
But yeah, good teams will exploit that, and like you said, they'll convert rather than waste opportunities.
Exactly.
Yeah, well said. As for the prediction in this one, Simon, where are you picking this?
Who are we going up against? Sorry,
Moana.
All right, yeah. So
In Christchurch as well.
yeah, Moana, tough to see them getting this one done. I'm going to say, I'm assuming that the Crusaders get a lot of their injuries back. Then it's just going to be probably similar to what they did to the Blues. It's going to be clinical. It's going to be sharp. Maybe not a score line like it would reflect pumping them. They might make a few early interchanges, but I see the Crusaders probably improving on this, not allowing some of those edge opportunities to happen, and kind of demoralize this Moana team a little bit.
Jordan, where do you see this?
Fuck, they've had a bit of a dream run since the old Blues game,
Yeah,
haven't they, in terms of schedule. So you got the Crusaders here at $1.01 favourites and Moana Pacifica at $15 underdogs.
There's a money line in there somewhere, got to be.
You know where I'm going. And I mean, Crusaders are going to win this game. I'll say that right here, right now. The Crusaders will win this game. But Moana plus 30.5 at $1.87, a 30-point money line. I know they lost by 59 to the Hurricanes. I know they lost by quite a bit to the Highlanders. You'd maybe value the Crusaders a little bit better than those teams. But hey, you only play to the opponent that's in front of you. And we've seen that the Crusaders have struggled against these island teams. So I'm going to say that Moana can cover a 30-point line because that is hideous.
This might be reading into it a little bit, but daylight savings has ended. It's going to be a little bit darker. It's going to be a little bit colder down in Christchurch. That could make the difference. I think you might see.
I don't hate that take.
Honestly, I don't know if they cover that margin.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm going to get you guys to save this little clip because I was kind of hoping you'd say they'd cover the pred. Now, Moana have conceded 20 points in 95% of their matches since coming in, including conceding 40 points in 45% of their games. God. Only once have they held their opposition to less than 20 points, which was the Hurricanes in 2022. So the last time that these teams played, it was 33-12. But I'm picking something like the 50-12 margin. I think Moana might get a few tinny ones here and there. It's going to depend what team that the Crusaders actually end up putting forward. We had Scott Barrett come back in due to the locking shortage, so it'll be interesting to see what happens with them this week. But yeah, I can't look away from the Crusaders.
Let me just defend myself here. Who's watched the Moana Pacifica games?
Yeah.
All right. A couple. Where are they getting the majority of their breaks? Through Aumua, through Tava Nawe, out on the edges, through their flankers running on the edges. What have we just said about the Crusaders?
I know. And I don't disagree with you at all, but if there's one team to rectify things like that in a quick way, it is the Crusaders. They are at home. They're playing some cold footy. I think they're going to play some good footy.
The cold footy is actually not a bad take.
Mate, there is a big low pressure coming in. It's going to be cold this week. I'm telling you.
That's some good.
Good knowledge. All right, now the Highlanders take on the Hurricanes on Saturday. The Highlanders beat your Moana 45-17. So if you're looking at the spread, the Highlanders stink, and they got that.
28? Still within 30.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I'll take that back. My quick math is trash. Hurricanes just beat the Force 45-42, which was a shambles. We'll start off with the Highlanders. Jordan, do you want to take us away?
Yeah, they did well to respond to the usual Moana opening onslaught because Moana always comes out hot and then fades really badly in the second halves. And they were able to, capitalize on their inability to, secure kickoffs and make the most of the points they've just scored. Again, the accuracy is really impressive with Aaron Smith at halfback. I say it every week, but they're starting to remind me of the Dolphins a little bit in terms of just like a not very spectacular way of footy, but just a phase to phase, get it done.
It's crazy how you can bring just this, arguably the greatest All Black and greatest halfback of all time, just bring him into a system that just has big names and they just
smoothly.
Yeah, the leadership, the control over a forward pack. It's amazing how much a halfback, Simon, you'll appreciate that, can dictate a pack around the field.
Yeah, because
I was going to say, I love the chat about the difference a halfback can make because it's the intangibles. I mean, Aaron Smith makes it really obvious because of the way you always hear his high-pitched screaming on defense and in attack. As a fan, it's not the best, but as a player on the field, you always appreciate a halfback telling you exactly what to do.
And as a 10, you appreciate it as well.
Numbers 1 to 8 don't like thinking; they like doing. And so, if you tell them what to do and give them enough of a push, they'll get it done for you. And I think that's what Aaron Smith does for a forward pack with no big stars, but with plenty of willing and grunt. He does exactly what he needs to, and he gives the backs a platform to do what they can to create opportunities. So
perfectly said.
Yeah, no, he's
another tick to Simon. Well done.
Yeah, yep, good stuff there. Scramble defense was good against the dangerous Moana attack, and then I got a question for you guys because I'm seeing it repeating dominant scrum.
Yeah,
is Ethan de Groot the best prop in New Zealand rugby?
Yeah, he's just re-signed today with the All Blacks.
Current or all time?
Oh no,
okay.
current.
Okay, yeah. No, I'll hear that. I'll definitely hear that.
Yeah.
I hope in the next or in this World Cup, if he can put together an 80-minute performance, I hope they keep him out on the field.
Hey, he played like 60 in this game.
And I tell you what, if they can do that against some pool play teams, you're freeing up potentially another sub with some attacking prowess to then bring onto the field. If you look at someone that can then cover the tight head, loose head, I don't know. I like it. But yeah, great move from New Zealand Rugby re-signing him as well. It's exciting to see. Okay, sorry. I'll give my take on the Highlanders. I don't know what I was thinking, saying it was going to be a tight one. It sort of was tight to begin with, and then they just sort of trickled out after that. They still missed more tackles. They ran less meters, and they kicked the exact same amount of times as each other. So they just, it shows that they took their opportunities when it was presented to them and capitalised on it, which was good to see from the Highlanders, and again, struggling signs for the Moana. Now, as for the Hurricanes, forward pack got into their work early and throughout the whole game. They looked good in the first half. They were up 26-7 at halftime, and it even got up to 31-7, and then they just got ripped apart completely in the backs. It was concerning to see. It's a little bit of a shame because, I'm high on the Hurricanes, and they've showed some signs of building towards a good and complete team in phases, but then you just have outbursts like this that when you come up the likes of the Brumbies, the Blues, the Chiefs, even the Crusaders, you can't afford to have these faults in your game. And when you're letting teams like the Force come into it so heavily and running up 42 points,
cost them a bonus point.
It's concerning. Rayasi, again, outstanding, and Kenny Naholo showed some good signs when he came on too. That try that he had where he broke across off the top of the rug, off the ruck. It was good signs of awareness and just the speed to back it off as well.
Yeah, so the Hurricanes they could be one of the most dangerous attacking teams in the competition, like you said with that Rayasi try and just the threats they have all around the field. First team to crack 200 points in the competition this year. So, hey, the Hurricanes,
when you let them in and you still score them. You can play that footy.
Exactly. So they aren't a complete team, like you said, and I see these sort of inconsistencies throughout their game, and I think they aren't the same level as a Blues, as a Chiefs, as a Crusaders even. They might be able to boil one over on the Crusaders, but hey, it's not perfect. They got the win, but they're just they're so good. It's a frustrating team to follow because they're so good and you see the signs, but they just let teams back in the game.
Is it experience that maybe we're seeing? You've got great leaders in this team, and you've got guys that do have a bit of experience around that Super Rugby, but maybe as they're coming together as a unit and sort of what they're actually trying to buy into and abide by, maybe that's something that's sort of
I think that's a good take.
Yeah,
I think that's a good take, especially around first five. Haven't really had a consistent first five
too.
Yeah.
So.
Well, Roygaard, we've talked about him on previous podcasts, is doing sublime for someone who's trying to lead a team and replace Perenara. But you bring up leadership, and they were missing, their leader. And I think there's a lot of intangibles and tangibles that that Savia covers. The defensive pressure, those game breaking tackle breaks, the support lines.
I think right around the field.
So I think he honestly removes a lot from a team. And I don't have the best memory, but did I not say last week that this game would be close? I'm pretty sure.
I think you did.
I'm pretty sure I did. I did say that the Force were probably trying to push for one of those top Aussie team spots, and I got a little bit laughed at. About that take, but hey,
I still don't think they're pushing. They're not pushing.
They were down by like 40 at one point.
But you called it tight.
Yeah, so exactly. Hey, I'm just saying.
How'd you go with the other games?
I don't think I made it. But yeah, no, the Hurricanes, good on the forwards to put some really good set piece tries together.
Yeah, for sure.
To run up the score so quickly. Who knows how much they coasted, but I don't know. It is worrisome, like you said. The key takeaway is you cannot do that against good teams. So I'm sure they'll sort it
The
out.
Force well, they were good for you, but they're the ultimate fucking multifolders with their late tries.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. As for a prediction, Simon, do you want to kick us off with that?
Hurricanes and Highlanders, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So who's at home?
The Highlanders, it's down in Dunners.
Yeah. So
Daylight savings?
no, well, it's indoors.
Dark,
it's
cold.
It's indoors. It's a covered stadium, so it's always well lit. It's always a balmy 20-something degrees in there. So I don't think the Hurricanes boys will be suffering from any shivers. They turned the AC on for Moana, definitely. But this game, I see, what we're talking about, the Highlanders' good points. I see them putting phases together, being a complete side, kicking to force the territory, holding on to position when they need to, and just trying to hold out the attacking prowess of the Hurricanes. I think you'll see a lot of their Hurricanes striking, maybe getting a few tries against the run of play, but the run of the game goes Highlanders holding on to the possession, penalties, a few tries. Let's see something around the old 27-20 to Highlanders.
That was actually a good pre-game speech you could give the Highlanders in that, in terms of controlling the possession, territory. You may concede a few tries, but I like it.
Yeah. So you've gone Highlanders, have you?
Yeah, 27-20.
Yeah, okay, nice. Well, you're taking another really good dog. Highlanders at $3.70, Hurricanes at $1.27 favourites.
Wow.
And I'm not with you in terms of the result, but I do see it being close. I see the Highlanders maybe controlling possession and territory throughout the whole game, but then just losing like one of those eat-ass games where it's like, Ray Arce from 60 metres. Yep. Kenny Naholo breaks out. So I think the Hurricanes are going to eat ass their way to a 1-12 victory at $2.60.
Yeah, look, it's going to go either one or two ways, like you just said. It's going to be, I'm seeing a Hurricanes result, just whether or not it's going to be something at a 1-12 or a 13 plus. I'm going to say Hurricanes at a 13 plus because I do think Rayasi is going to come together and score maybe one or two. Those outside backs are going to eat it up. I mean, when you're looking at it, Proctor's been doing outstanding this season for the Hurricanes.
Yeah,
Geordie Barrett is going to kick them all over the park. And then you've got the strike power of Naholo and Rayasi out the back there as well. So, yeah, look, I'm going to be going Hurricanes in this and at a 13 plus. The roof will be over the in Forsyth Bar. So, yeah, it's going to be good conditions, good running conditions.
Real clash of styles, eh? It's like a uninspiring but highly accurate attack versus a pretty inaccurate but very dangerous from everywhere sort of style.
So if it clicks, it's going to click well. Yeah. Now the Blues take on the Rebels on Saturday. The Blues are coming off a 20-13 loss to the Chiefs. Before we get into that, I'd mentioned Tom Barham got the call up to the Blues development. Everything went really well for him. It was, I can't remember the player, but it was the centre came down with a broken jaw. So Tommy ended up getting 45-minute stint, played absolutely fantastic. The Blues outside back stocks are a little bit depleted at the moment. So he's now in camp with the Blues actual team currently. And he's going to get the call on Thursday on whether he actually travels with the squad over to Melbourne. So
very nice.
Yeah.
If there was a team to get him blooded into the Blues squad,
that's the team.
The Rebels is the team.
Yeah. So yeah, he's having another fantastic week. I spoke to him again today, and he said he's keen as to jump on a show with us and just explain a little bit of how everything went after that. So
very cool.
Yeah. Look, it's I'll let him obviously explain more to you, but it's pretty unreal. He's pretty much rubbing shoulders with Rieko Ioane at the moment. So like I said to him, you've got arguably the most informed, or one of the most informed centres in the world currently. Yeah. You got an All Black centre, and you're getting to sort of test your game a little bit and see what the standard is. So he's having a whole heap of fun.
All Black legend, you could say at this point. I know he's still young, but he's close to 50 caps.
Yeah, no, I agree. Now the Blues, Bowden Barrett had himself a shocker. There's no shying away from that. The Blues outside backs were pretty quiet all over the park, really. I think they're missing the X factor that Mark Talia brings to them, so I'm looking forward to hopefully that being back out on the paddock for them. I will say, though, they had opportunities throughout this whole game. They just couldn't put a complete performance together against the Chiefs, and it sort of reiterates what I said last week. When you've got a team like the Chiefs and a team like the Blues, and the better team really just stood up and got the performance done. So I was impressed from the Chiefs, but still, I mean, taken away from the Blues, it's another frustrating performance for them where they can be a lot better than that.
Yeah, so like you said, they had every opportunity to win this game. You came in pretty hard on Beauden Barrett, and I agree. I'm getting sick of his shit.
The only thing I will give, though, is the try that he didn't put the ball down, absolute shocker, but they did end up scoring a couple of phases after that. So in terms of
What do you do? What if they didn't, though?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, fuck. So that was I'm getting annoyed with some of the elements of Beauden Barrett's game, but I will play devil's advocate because he did do a lot of good territorial kicking in this game, especially in the second half, and they were able to control possession and territory for long periods of that second half and really had all the opportunities in the world to get that result. But, man, they're like the Tigers, man, in terms of execution in the strike zone.
Yeah.
Am I wrong? Like,
no, you're not. You're not wrong. Yeah.
How many blowing tries over the line? How many execution errors when
This comes back to week 1 when I sat there and I watched and I saw this dominant performance from the Blues, but it all came from the 50-meter line.
Yeah.
Their backs have the ability to strike and they can strike from absolutely anywhere. But in terms of actually applying pressure, building phases together and attacking where you want to and executing it, that's where they're just lacking.
And credit goes to the Chiefs' defense. They definitely defended Harty and definitely did a good job at holding the Blues off. But we also saw it in the Crusaders game. The first half was Crusaders, pressure, try out in the corner. Blues respond, but from like 50 out, like with a massive breakout try. So Blues definitely need to work out some wrinkles when it comes to, actually putting pressure on the try line and actually executing in that strike zone. But I'm pretty high on them because they looked like a better team for the most part. They could work those things out and be really genuine contenders in this match. So I'm not fully out on them, but that's 3 times now where we've seen a close game that they've had all the opportunity in the world to win go the other way.
Yeah. A couple of points to pick up on. Talia, massive gap. I mean, we've talked about him so many times here about the work that he does off the ball, on the ball, when he's doing non-typical winger roles, carrying the ball up, supporting runners, hitting rucks. The man does so much that a winger shouldn't, but, it really makes a difference when they do. So missing him, I think that brought a lot of the woes to the Blues. But man, I'll just focus in on the last 10 minutes because that's where I watched a lot of it live. And you're so right. They had phase after phase inside the 22, multiple set pieces, scrums. They won penalties. They set scrums. There was infringements. They got scrums. They had so much time in that last 10 minutes when they were down by 7 to equalize. Even the last 15 minutes, I'd say, so much time in that opposition 22. And at the Super Rugby level, regardless of the team you're playing against, if you can put 5+ phases together inside the 22, you should be scoring in the next 3 phases. Like, you should be moving...
5's pretty harsh.
No, 5 phases in the 22. Like that,
no, I still think that might be harsh.
But that's a few pick and goes. That's runners off the edge of your 10. That's maybe 1 or 2 goes with the backs. But by that point, you
want to be finding direction on where you're going to strike.
You want to be setting up your areas to which you're going to go there. Yeah.
Yeah, but the fact that they dropped the ball over the line to end the game, credit to the Chiefs defense, like you said. But man, the Blues should expect better of themselves, and all I can see is a tough training coming up this week where they spend a few time building phases in the 22 and then converting. It's it's junior rugby stuff where you just get in the habit of converting tries in those situations because then it becomes muscle memory. Like all it is beating the gain line. It's not, if you take it away from the try line, all they're trying to do is get past the ruck line, and they couldn't do that for minutes at a time holding the ball. So
and look,
it's tough, man.
To the Chiefs' credit though, they did that perfectly. They stood up and they put that performance on them, and it was good to see. As for the prediction of this, look, the Rebels aren't that bad. They can put points on teams is what I'm trying to get at, and they're playing over there as well. The last 2 games though that the Blues have outscored them 121 points to 13. To 31, which is just insane.
Still.
Yeah, I know. So the Rebels haven't actually beaten the Blues as well since 2015. So, look, I'm going Blues 13+ on this.
Okay, and I think I'm around the same. You've got the Blues here at $1.14 favourites and the Rebels at $5.50 underdogs.
The spread.
No, I'm not going to spread. I'm not going to spread this time. I think the Rebels, because of the fact that they can score points, I don't see it being full 50 to like low score blowout. So I'm actually going to go with the Blues 11 to 20 at $3.50. I think I could see it being anywhere around 42 to 25, something like that. So that's where I'll stick for this game.
Yep. I mean, I think you've got it. I think the money is in that 11 to 20 range. The Blues, I would say it's a fairly confident win. I don't know what the head-to-head is, but that would be a safe bet, just straight up if there's value in it. But, man, the Rebels are dangerous. They'll score tries, and the Blues will have to get on top of things because, like you said, they strike from distance, and if we can't get those strike options to convert, then we might be in for a battle. It could be, a lot tighter than we expect.
No, couldn't agree more. All right, that's Super Rugby done for us. Before we get into the NRL, though, Stealth Blaze Thermogenic Fat Burner and Pre-Workout. This is a fat to energy converting supplement you've been looking for, and it tastes great. Achieve your weight loss goals faster and get your focus laser sharp. You'll suppress appetites, burn fat with every workout, and get lots more energy. Head over to Alpha Sups to give it a nudge and use the code LADS Talking Footy for 15% off at checkout. All right, we're going to take a quick break from the podcast. Once we're back, we'll get into the NRL. All right, welcome back. We're going to kick it off into the NRL. So how did we go with our tips last week, boys? Just the head-to-heads.
Yeah, so the picks, I thought we were going to cover this one in the predictions, so I'll just let me scroll for a second. I went 5.5, so there was a draw, obviously, so 5.5 out of 8.
Yeah.
And then the props I got, it was Roosters 1 to 12, Panthers 13 plus, and Broncos 13 plus. So it's all right.
Yeah, it was a bit of a tough round, though.
It's a tough round, few upsets.
I don't have my tips up in front of me. Here.
Okay, so I went the same 5 for 5 with you. I missed out on the Storm Sharks, and fuck, my Manly let me down on that one. As for my best bets, had a bit of a shocker as well. Mr. Suali'i, Johnston, Turbo, Nakora, and the overs on the Dogs. One thing I will give credit to is the Broncos covering that spread.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, so
they did. And they looked like they were going to do it in the first half as well.
Yeah.
I think they did do it in the first half. So that was a good pick.
My tips were shocking. I was 3 from 8. Terrible.
I did see that you dropped a little bit on the table.
Yeah.
I will say it is a lot easier to pick, but over the last 2 weeks, I am 9 from 9 on the Super Rugby.
Oof.
And decent props as well. I think I got, what were the props for this week? A lot of notes here, just 1 second. And the props I got you were Highlanders 13 plus, Crusaders 13 plus, and Chiefs 1 to 12. So I only missed your one prop there. So and that was gonna hit, but the Force 3 tries in the last 10 minutes. So
that's tidy, nothing to turn your nose up at. What we're going to do this week is we're just going to review each game. I think it'll flow a little bit nicer, and then we'll get into the previews after that. So Thursday night, the Roosters had the win over the Eels, 28 to 20. Now, the Eels looked like that Golden Point game against the Panthers the week beforehand just had them really flat. I thought the whole X Factor thing, I was just thinking about when I was watching it with the whole Gutho situation and the try saver that he come away with. If you're not looking for X Factor,
there's a disconnect here because I watched that game and I thought, they're right. They're right. The offense was very lateral, especially around Blake and Sivo's position. And I thought an injection of a Jaden Campbell or a Reece Walsh or something in around there could actually help this offense.
I like that because, look, I had the same thing. The left edge was just flat the whole time. Sivo ran out of room so many times, but that ain't on Gutho. That's on Wonga Blake and the halves. And you bring Sean Lane back into the picture and you're going to have a guy that sort of steers this ship around. If you're looking at X Factor, though, for me, I think the guy that they need to look for is a gun hooker or someone that come on and play that 14 role and inject some energy around the ruck for them. Not running off it, but can scoot out a dummy half. You look at what Sony Luke does for the Panthers and Starling as well, provides for their teams. I think that's the avenue that you look for because...
I'm sorry, I disagree.
Yeah,
I think it is something like a Campbell. They've got really good offloaders everywhere around the field. Paulo, Sean Lane, and Ryan Madison, and someone who pops up everywhere like a Jaden Campbell.
Run off that. Look, I hear what you're saying. I just don't think... I'd be looking at the centres and I'd be looking internally maybe around that hooker role before I started pointing the finger at Gutho. Sam Walker with the cutout passes, it's good footy when it comes off, but when it's happening every single time, I think you need to park it maybe just a little bit.
A little bit, eh? He's got a massive ball on him, bro. He can cover half the field easily.
Yeah. Now, it is nice, though, to see that the Roosters are finding some groove, though. I still don't think that this glove is quite fitting comfortably for him. It's a whole heap of moving parts that are sort of just moving around out there, and it doesn't look like a whole cohesive unit. What did you guys take away from the game?
Yeah, I was very impressed with the Roosters, to be honest. They're a very dangerous team when they're in this kind of form. Can break out from anywhere with backs like Suoliti and Tedesco.
I had him as the anytime try scorer. I thought he was going in right at the start.
Yeah,
And I was
yeah,
just
yeah.
like, fuck. Here we go.
So this team is lethal from everywhere. They always have support runners. So Teddy is really good at that. And then when Teddy went down, you thought, okay, maybe they're going to lose that a little bit. But Luke Carey was Johnny on the spot all the time as well with his 2 tries. He was everywhere, and you can kind of see why there was rumors of TJ Perenara going to the Roosters a couple of years ago. You thought, hey, that would fit considering his support lines in rugby union. So
the cheese fits it perfectly though. They knew how they wanted to play when they went out and signed him, and he's playing really, really well, which has been good to see.
yeah, so I mean, they also play off really good shape and really good depth in the strike zone. So in terms of just offense, there's a lot to, sort of be very impressed with the Roosters. Their defense was also quite good as well. Hutchinson did a really good job, I thought, I know I just said the Eels' offense wasn't very inspiring, but, he still did a good job at drifting out and making sure there was no alleys for the other team to break through. So
We talked about that off air as well. I mean, you missed that strike power of Suoliti in the centres, but look, he didn't do anything bad and he played safe. He didn't let tries through, and that's all you can ask for from a bloke sometimes.
Yeah.
Maybe if he doesn't bring X factor, that's okay.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes you don't need the X factor, you just need a factor. And he was a factor in this game. But Paulo as well, I think he's got star potential as a winger. Great set of hands, nice touches, great athlete. So I love him in that winger spot.
If I'm the Roosters, I'm not too worried about Suoliti. Oh, I'm worried about Suoliti leaving. But in terms of young talent on the wing, Polo is fucking outstanding. It's nothing to turn your nose up
Then
at.
Dominic Young coming as well, and then Manu's coming back from injury as well. So, man, the stocks are really, really high in the Roosters.
What? So Dominic Young's heading to the Roosters?
Yes, he is
Yeah.
next
Wow.
year.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll cover that in a bit, but yeah, man, that's a great talent to pick up. But hey, back to the X Factor conversation. This game showed that I'm in Sam's camp. Like, maybe he doesn't create the opportunities in the line breaks that other fullbacks offer, but he's defensively solid.
Put it this way, you're not going to be able to go out onto the market and just give me Pappenhausen, give me, these elite fullbacks. Gutho's a Dally M fullback.
Exactly. And
But he has versatility as well.
Exactly.
And he can be played like Penasini is good, but he makes quite a few mistakes and he gambles a lot on defense. Like, you could play him at centre. Like,
If you don't want him, we'll take him back at Manly.
well, I mean, they could use him because they've got some problems at the moment. But yeah, I was watching that game and I was thinking, man, that's not a bad call from the Eels to look for someone like a Jaden Campbell or someone that's just a little bit busy considering the offloaders that they have.
I think they're looking in the wrong position. You guys both said that the Eels' attack was lateral, and I agree. To see wingers get run out of space is a coach killer. But when
It's Sevo.
but when in a
want them
league
to have all the
team,
space in the world.
in the way that league attack patterns are run, when do you ever see the fullback being the straightener or the guy running the head back towards the defense? They're always the guy running out the back door. They're running on the inside shoulder. They're not straightening the attack. And so if a team is running sideways, it's the centers, it's the loose forwards, like Sam was saying, that should be holding up the defense, providing the straight lines, and allowing Gutherson to run off the inside-outside shoulder or run out the back door and get the offload. So I think your attention's misplaced, JJ, a little bit.
No, I don't think it is. I think you simplified that description as well by just saying that that's all that a fullback can do.
I don't disagree with
Because
what... No.
look at fullbacks like a James Tedesco, and just
around the route,
fullbacks that are real Johnny on the spot. And think of the weapons that the Eels have in the forward pack in terms of their ability to offload the ball and stuff like that. And if you see the injection of a Reece Walsh, here's a good example, and the way he injects himself into the line on multiple different occasions when they're making strike plays, he can influence that last pass and that thing that can sort of make that
Spark
offense
and tick and go.
Yeah,
And
and more dangerous.
I do agree with it. I just think that there's bigger problem, or there's bigger fish to fry in the Eels pack before you start turning in on Gutho. That's the only thing. I don't agree with you, but I do agree, yeah.
I think that could be the fix. I honestly do.
But yeah, to wrap up on the game, Eels did well to keep it close. Roosters, like I said, finding a lot of form. The backs looking deadly as ever. Carey really standing up. And I think he took the line on a lot more and actually was not scared of the contact, which he's kind of
shied away from
sometimes prone to doing. So it was good to see Kerry step up. And Roosters, a gun team and probably going to finish high up. I mean, pretty weak take, but, Roosters looking good.
Yeah.
Now the Panthers flogged the Raiders 53-12. Jordan, do you want to kick us off with your takes away from that?
Yeah, so this was due to happen. They've been playing really well, but against very strong defensive teams in the opening rounds, and they needed a little submissive, like a injury-depleted Raiders to, just sort of get their confidence back and get their combinations clicking. Cleary and Yo, to me, is the real combination to that attack. Luai is kind of becoming a non-factor, and it's kind of getting a little bit easier to, drop him from that New South Wales team. So impressive from Cleary and Yo, but, it's starting to look like Luai's falling out of favour, so something to keep your eye on. And another note I got here, I've been saying in the group chat, but Isaiah Yo is such a good ball player.
I keep laughing at that when you were saying about like Yao should go and play for the Tigers in a half role, and that's sort of what I brought up. That's what they're missing is just a player that can play off Appy and sort of play around the ruck. But I couldn't agree with more.
It would work. He's a better. I see his skill sets, and I think he'd be a better half than both Brooks, Wakeham, and even Dewey sometimes. So
yeah, to make a comparison to another player in the league, he's a more agile, better ball skilled Tohu Harris. We saw him for the Warriors do the same thing, right? Play between the 6 and second rower position. So he does everything Tohu does, but with a bit more execution and a bit more clinical about it. But still a dog, carries the ball hard, isn't afraid of defense. So, I mean, full credit to the man. How many games did he bring up on the weekend? 200. Yeah, so good stint, and he's, top of the line.
I've got written down here the whole Taruva, Edwards, and To'o factor. It's just a nightmare when you play the Panthers on who you kick to. If you're kicking it to To'o, then you've got to allow for Edwards and Taruva coming back out. You kick it to Taruva, you got Edwards and To'o. It's just a nightmare on who you want returning the ball and who you want on the next carry.
Tago chips in.
Exactly.
He does big meters, yeah.
Taruva's been really, really impressive. He's had a limited amount of first grade games under his belt, and he looks so comfortable. That razzle that they showed on the last play and then the grubber that he put through was just incredible. Nathan summed it up post-match. He said he sees him training that around a lot throughout the week, and for him to have the confidence to actually pull that out on the game, it just shows a lot to where he sort of feels and sits within this team, which is great to see. Now, the Raiders last year had a win in round 1 versus the Sharks, a loss to the Cowboys, a win, and then they lost the next 5 straight before things clicked for them. This season, they've gone 2 losses, a win, and then lost 2. Now, they play the Broncos, the Dragons, they have a bye, Dolphins, and then Dogs. So if it's anything like last year, maybe once Whiten comes back, they might start to find their groove just a little bit. Now the Storm defeat the Rabbitohs 18-10. The Bunnies were just a real letdown in this one. They really struggled playing against the Storm. They really struggled playing against the Storm, and the Storm proved it again. Latrell was just really, really average. Kick receptions are just walking up before actually getting into the return out of it. We just talk about Edwards and sort of what he brings to the Panthers squad. Look, Latrell offers so much on attack that obviously Edwards doesn't, but as a fullback, you want to be cutting those meters up and just try and get some sort of platform for you. So it was real disappointing. Silly mistakes, poor decisions, and they were just their own worst enemies throughout the whole game and that. Harry Grant was outstanding along with Warbrick and Katoa. The Storm looked a lot better in this than in previous weeks, and when they get Hughes back, I think things will start to look a little more exciting for them. It's just the factor with the forward pack, and I did think it was an interesting move shifting Sims to the 18th man just before kickoff. You've gone out and brought him into the squad to be this impact player, and you don't even want him on the interchange bench. So yeah, I thought that was an interesting one.
Yeah, so great performance by the Storm. You said they showed improvements in this game, and I thought the main improvement they showed from this game was defensively. So they were really good defensively, especially in the second half when the Rabbitohs were rolling yardage on them. When the Rabbitohs were controlling the possession and territory and, really had a lot of pressure on them. They scrambled really well. Yeah,
and you could see the frustration through the Bunnies as well.
Exactly. And that's been a reoccurring theme with the Bunnies, especially with, the likes of Cody Walker and stuff like that. So the Storm, very impressive performance. Harry Grant is a tireless defender, no matter what point in the game. Pretty sure he's playing 80 most of these games, and he's just everywhere, always making the game-saving tackles. 51 tackles in this game. I know I've said Tedesco and Edwards might be the fittest. This man might be the actual fittest because he's actually D'ing up in the middle the whole game. So, man, Storm, pretty impressive. It was always a possibility to happen with this result, but hey, they got it done and they proved it.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing, or a couple of things I'll add, brutal game. Like, these low-scoring battles, it was just long stretches of repeat set, or not repeat sets, but, sets going back and forth. Rabbitohs, just a few key players lacking a bit of heart. I don't know. I think there's a huge advantage to be given to the teams that don't quit and are resilient when you have those battles of going back-to-back sets where you may only gain 10 or 20 meters on that kick that you make, and the team starts either 10 or 20 meters, further back in their own half. And I think that makes a big difference. And I think the Rabbitohs just were lacking a bit of that resilience through the middle. And then also Munster, he's just he's showing a lot.
I will say
that they were missing when he was out.
I will say on the Rabbitohs, it is kind of concerning to me now. Yeah. They are holding teams to these low scores and they are, fronting up defensively, but they're also 2-3 and they're really struggling to score points themselves. In this game, there seemed to be a massive disconnect on Ilias's side, and there was some real. I know the Storm were doing some good work in terms of putting pressure on Ilias's side and trying to shut those plays down, but there was still balls just going to ground and balls hitting the head runner off the shoulder. And
it's funny that you bring that up because earlier in the season we were talking about the Bunnies' right side being such a strong factor and how they were using Kolomatangi as well. So, you put it perfectly. The Storm applied pressure on the younger half and the guy that they thought might crumble a little bit. Yeah. The Bunnies have been a bit of a team that plays each side evenly. So when you're playing that evenly and you can't sort of crack it down one side, and they couldn't get it to click with AJ either. So yeah, you could see the frustration. You could see Damien Cook throughout the whole game getting frustrated on how these calls were going, the way that they were finishing sets as well. So,
and hats off to Bellamy as well. They obviously did their homework and saw that the Rabbitohs are super effective off, tap plays from penalties and working certain areas. And they just, as soon as the tap started or the scrum started, they just got up and disrupted any sort of momentum that the Rabbitohs could build. So, hey, very impressive by the Storm, and, hats off to the coach just as much as the players.
Now Manly took on the Knights and had a 32-32 draw. Simon, do you want to kick us off with what you took away from that?
Yeah, I mentioned in the last game, brutal. This was a brutal affair. There was, just like the score shows, not much separating these two teams. It was back and forth. And to everybody's surprise, Knights played, really, really well. Not the Eagles didn't have, you'd say, a bad game, even though people expect them to win. It was just, I don't know how to describe it or what it was, but the Knights just managed to really pull it together. They
managed to swing some momentum really well, and they capitalize on opportunities. It was a bit stupid. That sounds really stupid, but it was a bit of a seesaw kind of game, and that's sort of just how the game really progressed. It was sort of tit for tat, really. They went shot for shot throughout each other. Lachlan Miller, we've been praising him each week, but you can't sit on your heels on the dead ball line when Big Hamoli's running down there. You got to make.
There was a couple of weird defensive decisions,
he was in the in goal.
Yeah,
who are you going to tackle in there? What tries are you going to stop in there?
That's the Sevens game, sort of maybe showing out on them shying away from the defense.
Then there was the dummy. It was on the other side of the field. The guy,
he was out of position in that one too.
Yeah, I can't remember who threw it, but there was a huge dummy, even though he was the only defender left, and he bought the dummy when he should have just made him force the pass. So yeah, a couple of crucial areas, but he made up for it, I guess you'd say, in a little way on the attacking side. He was contributing quite a lot there too.
Dom Young was great in this as well. 4 tries, 5 tackle breaks, 4 line breaks, 227 run meters. The lad was called in he was obviously on the reserves, the travelling reserves bench, but he was called into the squad and got the start straight afterwards. Heck of a game to bounce back after being dropped as well.
Yeah, and I can expect him to, start a few more times after this. Hey, that whole right side was cutting the Seagulls to bits, low key. Even Dane Gagai. Gagai had a lot of success down that right side as well. So the Knights actually looked pretty decent. I know the Seagulls came out, they just came out real lethargic in that first half, and they didn't
do this as well. They sometimes do it. Sometimes they'll come out and they'll just come out guns blazing and then maybe like fall off a little bit towards the end of it, or they'll be lethargic and then sort of catch some late ones. I just want to see a complete
For
performance.
most of the games I'd seen this year, they'd had real solid intensity up front and a real, in the physical aspect of the battle. But in this game, they just seemed like they were, not really trying as hard as they possibly could to like get that good go forward going on. But credit to the Knights anyway. They definitely played well. Jackson Hastings.
Yeah.
You did make a take in terms of like carrying a team, I think, in one of our group chats.
Yeah, he's not a player that is like, you don't put him into a half role and he's like the likes of like Hughes even, and these teams these players that still control a team well, but they have attacking flair. He can just direct a team around the park beautifully.
And then also he's like a rugby union first five, a traditional rugby union first five. He kicks the territory well. He's always got good relieving kicks to get his Knights team out of pressure. So Jackson Hastings, I'm really impressed with the impact he has on this Knights team.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, he kicked well to Dominic Young. I mean, having that man on the edge, both on attack and also on the dropouts, I mean,
I think he's 6'2".
Yeah, it's
Dominic
crazy.
Young. No. He's
got
6'6".
Yeah, he's
sorry.
he's a bit taller. But I mean, having the ability to do a short drop kick, a dropout, from your own line, and be quite confident that he's going to get first touch to it, kick to his edge when you're attacking, and he's going to either take it cleanly and score himself or get the offload to the centre or someone nearby. I mean, having that asset is just such. I mean, when you pair it with Hastings, who can put it on the dime. It's a deadly combination, and I think he'll get a few more tries.
I will also just say, what better of a look does Daly Cherry Evans need? I know there was like some kick pressure,
that was
but
my
like
last thing I was going to say. How frustrating was it watching that golden point, and they had, I think it was like 2 or 3 opportunities where they got down there. They were sitting on the 30-meter line. He was back in the pocket. They just couldn't set up a good play for him to have a good shot. Yeah. I don't know why he was the only one in the back there. I think you should, these teams, when you're taking it to the
Garrick
middle,
as an option or
exactly, you
something?
should have an option on either side. We saw the Rabbitohs a couple of weeks ago capitalize on it beautifully, having Latrell in the back. They all went for Latrell, and then Ilias, it went that way and he pulled out the winner. I don't know why teams don't do that more often. Now the Dragons defeat the Dolphins 38-12.
Not my Dolphins.
Yeah. Now, early on, the Dolphins' chop tackles were proving to be real effective, I thought, on the Dragons' attack. But then Milford obviously goes down 20 minutes into it, and the floodgates just opened up. The injury toll is just a big concern for the Dolphins, and we just saw them not be able to keep up with the limited stocks that they have. It was good to see Little starting at hooker. You brought that up last week, and it was really good to see him sort of take on the game in that starting role and sort of really attack well.
And Amoni, I thought, was really good to like helping their offense add a little bit more danger to it.
Exactly.
His little kicks in behind were really effective.
Tyrell Sloan has been great to start this year. It was so good to see him again in this. Confidence does so much to a player, and a young player like that. It just got completely stripped away from him last year when he got dropped from the team. He got thrust into this with an injury to, the name's escaping me now, the young Cody Ramsey.
Yeah.
So he's just been thrust into that position this year early on. He's just taken it within a stride. He's learned from his mistakes last year. He's been quite vocal about that on a few different shows that I've listened to as well. So he's grown as a man or as a player, and he's really showing that out on the field this year, which is great to see.
Yeah, no, the Dragons, very impressive. They sort of picked up last week with the same style in terms of being more expansive, and this week it absolutely worked. It absolutely showed its fruit. So Ben Hunt was the conductor of it all. Fantastic game, really picks and chooses when to engage the line perfectly. Moses Suli, and Michaeli Ravalao, absolute beast, the most feared right edge maybe in the whole competition. So,
like I said last week, if there's one player to watch just each week, watch Michaeli Ravalao, man. It's so exciting.
He's exciting, yeah. So Blake Lowry as well, I think, has been in some of the best front row form out of the competition. He's been really good. To me, this does seem like maybe it's a little bit of a momentum team.
Yeah.
I think they're going to win games here and there, 13 plus, and then I could see them losing games 13 plus, and you can see it with this win and then last week's result as well, where they lost to the Sharks by heaps. So Dragons, kind of positive signs.
Yeah.
Let's see if they can keep it going.
Yeah, a couple of things to point out. I mean, I think the biggest indicator, the biggest impact on the scoreline were those injuries. I mean, the Dolphins already struggling going into the game, getting a few injuries throughout the game, and I think regardless of how good a squad is, as soon as you suffer a few reductions in your interchange abilities, it's just, I mean, the game is so fast now, so many 6 agains.
100%.
If you can't recycle your forward pack, you're going to suffer, and teams are going to just, if they can hold the ball, if they can kick it into your corner, they're going to squash you. But I mean, yeah, JT pointed out, Suli, Ravalawa, really exciting, dominant ball runners, and a very scary edge to play against. But, you know, in the selfish point of things, if you've been following our...
I was just about to bring that up.
Our weekly betting, hey,
You've been holding his hammer, and the hammer went over again.
Yeah, I was losing faith, I must admit, and it came against the play, and he managed to dot down in the corner to keep the anytime try scorer multi alive. So, I mean, hey, big ups to the man Hammer. So
And you as well. You've been killing it.
Yeah, thank you.
Right until the wheels fall off.
Exactly. So, I mean, I said...
And knowing the Dolphins, they might.
Well, yeah, I said I had to keep backing him until
you've
either
hit.
it hits. Yeah, so I think I might put him back in there, but we'll see.
Now the Broncos defeat the Tigers 46-12. Coming into this, the season just completely reflected the game. The Broncos are coming in with 4 wins and looking like the team to beat. The Tigers are coming in with 4 losses and looking like the team that pretty much everyone can beat. Tim Sheen's put it perfectly after the game as well.
Lots of the clubs are still on 1 or 2 wins, and you could add 2 points for their bye. You know, so it's not that far away. I hope we'll win the bye anyway in a couple of weeks.
Yeah,
That's
look,
some pain, honestly. Like
when you've got the head coach saying shit like that as well, I hope we win the bye with a bit of a giggle afterwards. Is just a bit of concern.
He didn't even say that with much of a giggle. Like, that was pure pain in that man's voice of just being at the helm of a team sitting well at the bottom.
Penalties and errors, again, were their own worst enemy throughout this, and the Broncos just pounced off every single one of them. Billy Walters played really well. This season, the one position I was worried about for the Broncos was the hooker role, and I think he's actually really starting to form into a really solid hooker now. Payne Haas, absolute beast. The question I have for you guys now, when Ponga eventually returns, who do you think gets a Queensland number 1? Because I don't even think it's a question mark anymore.
I'm going to stick with Reece Walsh as well. In a game where all the stars seem to stand out for the Broncos, it still seemed to me like the Reece Walsh game. Like, he had his fingerprints on everything in terms of the attack. So, hey, man, I'm liking the way Reece Walsh is playing. And I think at this point, even considering like the injury history of Kalen Ponga, I know he's such a talented player, but Reece Walsh is in that good a form that I think you can pick him now.
Yeah, no, 100%. Like, when we were having the conversation about X Factor, that man oozes it. Like, he is, following the ball. He's not stuck to a side. He also isn't greedy with it. You know, when he injects himself late in the tackle count.
He had 5 try assists.
Yes, exactly. He is always looking to offload or to set someone up into a hole.
He's got a beautiful pump as well.
Yeah.
He holds it. He'll pump, and all the way up until they'll bite, and then he'll give it. Yeah.
Yeah. So as a small man with pace and agility, taking the ball to the line, he does it better than anybody else in the competition at the moment. So, you know, a little tinge of old SJ in his game, I'd say.
Ooh, there he is.
Okay, big shoes to fill.
What did you guys take away from the game itself?
Well, on the Tigers' standpoint, it's just
Not much. Yeah,
the same
old
shit every week.
Yeah.
Same shit every week. Terrible execution in the strike zone. Wakeham, just as bad as Brooks. I know I
he
was
had a
sort
shocker. There was one play where they went down the left edge, and so it was like right down. I can't remember who the winger is. They took it right into the corner. It was the last. They ended up pulling it back. 2 passes to Wakeham, and Wakeham puts it up and sends it back to the left edge.
Yeah.
You've got the wingers just played the ball.
That's right.
You've got the centre that's just cleared the route. You've got no one else chasing the ball. What the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, I know. I was kind of like the guy saying like, oh, he had a good second half against the Bulldogs.
Yeah.
Give him his opportunity.
I want something.
And he got his opportunity, and, you know, I kind of had to eat my hat there. So, yeah, Wakeham's bad. Brooks is bad. Dewey was all right when he came. So he started at fullback, but then he came a little bit more into the line and played sort of like a pseudo half in the second half. And he actually didn't look too bad in that position. But I don't know if that's like the answer. I know they've got him back there this week.
I think it was post-game, or it might have been the halftime speech from Cooper Cronk was an interesting one. He said, when you're watching the Tigers, it's just all these guys get the ball and try to create. And there's no one that's actually on the page. Well, they're not all on the same page playing as a team or a cohesive unit. It looks like the ball comes to someone, they go, fuck, I'll make a play.
Yeah.
And then that's where the mistakes just start creeping in. It's a fucking shit show.
No structure. And it's a shame because I watch their games and for some reason, for some bizarre reason, they're a second half team and they always in the contest in the second half.
Right from the start of the second half as well.
Yes.
That's where they come out.
They've got good talent in their forward pack, and I think that's the catalyst to them being so gritty and hearty and staying in games. They've got Bateman, Papali'i, and Yutaka Manu I thought was real good in this game. So there's talent here, and it's just getting wasted by, I'm going to say,
Poor decisions.
Poor decision-making in the playmaker roles and in the coaching roles.
Yeah. I mean, you can't put a whole 80-minute performance on just the halves because there's trainers that get on a field, there's a halftime break, and a good coach can influence a team of rugby league professionals to cut the ball. Yeah, to cut the ball up the field, get a kick into the corner, apply pressure, and then strike when you've got good field position. So, yeah, to play 80 minutes so poorly, even though, like you said, they do have moments of coming out with a bit of vigor. Yeah, it is just so woeful. And with the rest of the rugby league competition looking so competitive, it's like a massive gap between
Runaway spoons,
yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, and it's tough. But I mean, Broncos, talking about it with you, JT, watching the game from 1 to 13, stacked, so
Superstar team.
so stacked. Like the forwards just,
I mean, you
so
just
elite.
cut that little bit of yellow out at the bottom, it's looking like a Maroons team pretty much.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, they're so deadly. They have great halves, just with so much star power. It's not wasted at all. They have great shape, great attacking. Yeah, a few mistakes to cut out, and they will be, quite comfortably in their
They'll
top
be there
1 and 2.
towards the end,
Yeah.
for sure.
Now, the last 3 seasons, the team that has gone, or for the last 3 consecutive seasons, a team that's gone 0-5 to begin the season has picked up the spoon and won the spoon. Tigers, they've got one hand on it already, just waiting for that last grasp.
They've got their summer holidays already booked in.
Yeah, Cancun, here we go.
Yeah.
Now, Warriors defeat the Sharkies 32-30. The man that kept the faith, do you want to kick us off with this one, mate?
Oh, man, wasn't this just an epic game? Weather footy,
Fantastic.
down by a huge margin.
So they were down 20-0 in the first half, and it got to 26-12 at halftime.
Yeah, and I mean, I think everybody's seen, or most people who are Warriors faithful should have seen the interviews that Shawnee had put after the game. You know, he said it. You know, the key word to the team is resilience. Like they talked about it at halftime.
It's completely different in this team.
Oh,
mate.
it is amazing.
In years past, we've been known as the team who's gone up 20-0 and below in the league.
Yeah, exactly. But
The Sharkies put up 40 points the weekend before that and were well on their way to putting on something like that and after that first half. And just, they found their rhythm. I think, Shawnee's post-game press conference was funny. It's like they're sitting in the sheds at halftime saying that we're going to tell our kids about this.
Yeah.
And they got on the same page and they just went out and played some footy and they rode the wave. And momentum's a huge thing in games.
Well,
and
they didn't panic. They didn't lose hope. They just settled into the game and they stuck to they have a very forward-orientated style and they bang you up
and
the
we've
middle.
said that as well. The Warriors forward pack is going to keep them in more games than they've
Exactly.
got.
And that's what I've got to note here. They're going to be a second half year all team, second half team all year with this style because they just bang you up the middle and then you got Egan around the ruck and they're just going to eventually start making breaks and making little threatening things around the ruck. And you got Sean in really good territorial kicking form. I know he's not putting up threatening bombs like he used to, but
When you can put it on a platter like that, it's fantastic to
Yeah.
see. Johnson finished with a try, 2 try assists, 2 tackle breaks, 2 line break assists, and 676
back.
kicking meters. He is back. It's like back-to-back performances. The finish as well. So Johnson's penalty to win it, and then Nico gets a shot at full time to potentially send another game to Golden Point in this round as well. I mean, what more could you ask for?
okay, hearty, resilient, great performance. I'm going to go to you, Simon.
Yeah.
How concerned are you over how this is a dangerous Sharks team, no doubt about it, but they were cut to pieces in that first half. How concerned are you about that?
yeah, very concerned because it's simple extra man plays in the edges, right? How many times did we see a winger snap in on the center, but half a second late, the ball goes right past his face, straight out to the winger, or the center can get the ball out to the winger, and it was easy, uncontacted tries by the wingers in the corners. Like that is worrisome because that's your defensive policy breaking down. It's not players missing tackles. It's not gritty dedication from the attack. It's us, getting exploited. So that is worrisome, but it's also fixable. But the thing is, it's the same players doing the same thing for a few weeks now. You know, those wingers have been doing the same thing.
Mulatalo
Yeah,
dropped a few sitters.
yeah,
Yeah.
But I mean,
And what a battle between Mulatalo
I know, it was
and
great to
Kosi.
see.
Little
Yeah.
chirp going on.
yeah,
I love
hey,
it.
we love that. Like the a bit of storyline, bit of drama. But to compare the Warriors game plan and the Sharks team, you know, what we did extremely well, which I'm so happy to see, is that maybe the return off the kick wasn't that that fast paced. You know, we don't see someone like Perham or Kennedy where they were just sprinting. They sprint straight at the defensive line as soon as they catch the ball. But the centre or the winger for the first 2 to 3 tackles, it is just so hearty. They're bumping off
Montoya,
forwards.
yeah.
Like that, it not only gets you great
Nickel
go forward.
Cockstad?
Yeah,
Yeah.
It not only gets you great go forward, but the forwards love it. And so
Yeah.
the next couple set tackles after that, they're running just as hard. And I think that makes a huge difference to the Warriors team.
Who are they coached by?
Webster,
And where did Webster come from?
Penrith, and
And I said that last week as well. This is the system that he's starting to emulate with the Warriors team. And Johnson is finally getting a lot more of a platform to actually play off this. As for your point, I don't think it's too concerning for the Sharks. I think Fitzgibbon's a good enough coach to rectify that. But if I'm a team that's coming in and I'm playing the Sharkies, I'm watching this Warriors performance, and that's how I'm going to start targeting the Sharks in terms of putting that pressure on them. They're a team that likes to play an expansive game to get them out of trouble, similar to the Storm. They applied pressure quite well and line speed on them too, so I'm not overly concerned for the Sharks, but I mean, it was a great performance and it's something
No.
that you should be.
I think I
really
asked him
worried
about the concern for the Warriors.
Oh, sorry. No, but yeah, I mean,
But no,
fair
that's
enough.
fair.
Yeah,
That is
yeah.
fair.
I was-
I'm the same with you.
Yeah.
They do. So when it doesn't go their way, they do make mistakes in bunches, though, and there is a lot of penalties and errors that sort of just rain out of. And when they're not playing with the territory that they would prefer, they don't play that sort of shifted style, and they go a little bit within themselves. And we've seen that in a couple games now. So yeah, the Sharkies just need to maybe figure some things out up front before they, start being real concerned about their championship aspirations.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, you could put it down to the weather, but for the man who was chirping a big game on attack, he dropped some crucial high balls that gave us great field position. I think made a lot of difference. I mean, if there was a wet weather game plan, the Warriors executed to perfection. Card it up the middle, get the roll on, put the ball high into the air, hope for a mistake, or pressure them in the corner. You know, like to make a cross-code comparison, and I don't know if you're hearing this, but the Warriors, whether they do it on purpose, play like the All Blacks. I've seen in some All Black games. No, hear me out, right?
Yeah.
They start slow. They weather the defensive storm. They don't try and run you off the field straight away. But after the first 15, 20 minutes, the gears go up. We start running the ball. You start getting tired, and then we start,
playing off the back of it.
Yeah, exactly. So I think to make a weird comparison, I think
I don't hate it.
Yeah.
I don't hate it. The only thing I'd say is the All Blacks only play every second game like that nowadays.
Yeah, exactly. It's not the All Blacks anymore, but like the All Blacks of the most recent prime period, that's what they were doing.
Other thing for me as well is Volkman got thrust into that starting role as a player that the club's invested in for the future as well. He played really well. I was a little bit worried how it was going to go defensively for him, and he held his own as well in that.
Safe
so
enough.
Yeah, it was good to see.
Can I just ask you guys a question on the push call at the end? Was it harsh?
If it was the other way around, yes, but because,
I think the Warriors have earned enough poor refereeing capital.
exactly.
Yeah,
I mean,
to sit on
it
that.
goes the other way so many times where we get the
Honestly,
bad rub of the
I
green.
kind of sit on the same as Simon on that.
But then also another question is, what about the near core hip drop?
hip drop. Oh my god!
So maybe that kind of evens it up, right?
Yeah, so
because that
I
was
mean-
weak.
Yeah, and that was
The
blew
only
blew the
thing-
whistle straight away and was no without question in the bin. Then it went the other way. I can't remember who it was for the Sharks, but clear as day. Oh, was it the 13? Whoever that is? I think was
Not
it?
Finucane.
No, wasn't it?
No, I
No,
can't remember.
anyway, yeah.
Can't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah, clear as day. The exact description of what a hip drop is. He grabbed him around the waist, moved his body weight behind the attacker and dropped his hip fully onto his legs, which brought him to the ground. Like, that is the description of a hip drop, whereas the Niokore one was a little bit more accidental. The guy was breaking the line and he kind of fell off the back of the tackle, and it turned into a hip drop. So they had to get the bunker into that one. The ref had to blow the time off, they had to review it, and then the decision was made. So, I mean, it was almost a close call of not getting it. And those hip drops, I'm glad that they are penalising it, but
I
it's
agree
a big
with you.
grey area though now.
Yeah,
They need to be consistent with it, but it's something that shouldn't be in the game. So players should know that that's something that they can just completely stay away from, because that's just black and white going to be the repercussion for it. But on the other side of that, they need to be consistent with it.
Sure.
Now, the Bulldogs beat the Cowboys 15-14 in Golden Point. I'll take a little bit of credit here because I had it in the game. I thought it was the toughest one to pick. Manly was just completely fucked that up for me earlier, but what a good game of footy it was to watch. Jacob Preston, 2 tries, 3 tackle breaks, 116 run meters. He was labelled throughout the game. I heard that Gus Gould come out and said that he was going to be a future leader at the club, and he's been playing outstanding ever since that as well. The dislocated finger as well in Max King's eye. So if you missed it, it was a tackle where they just wrapped around. His finger went into Max King's eye, ended up dislocating it in it, and it actually broke the webbing on it. Max King's eye just looked completely fucked up.
Yeah.
So Preston's standing in the in-goal area and he's just getting it taped up. You can see, instead of just taping 2 fingers together, it looked like they taped the whole fucking hand. And he's just screaming and crying about it.
Yeah.
And so Max King's eye is just, well, not pissing out with blood, but it's got blood coming out of it. It's
It was
closing
already,
up.
like, swollen,
You can't see the
purple.
eye. And the bloke comes back out onto the field as well and continues playing. Like, we've had Munster just completely separate his finger. Now we've had a dude pretty much playing blind.
Different breed, these league cats. Yeah.
The Dogs have been grinding it out lately and they're getting some results from this. Marnie had a few passages where he looked a lot better, but he needs to find a better way of injecting his energy and running into the game instead of just trying to create things for his game. Burden got a chance to come up with a clutch moment, took it, delivered it, and great to see for the club.
Yeah, and that was one of my concerns last week with them was who they were going to go to. Oh, no, in terms of who out of the two, Burton and Marnie, they were going to go with. And Marnie was kind of messing it up. They had no questions as to who they were going with this time. And Burton, hey, mean little kick to Addo-Carr to get them in good territory. And then straight away just slots a deep, pretty, I'd say like 40 meters.
Yeah.
But obviously they went behind the 40, so it wasn't 2 point. But big drop kick, clutch drop kick. And there's a little bit of grit and determination to this Bulldogs team, like you said. And
They're building foundations.
yeah, they're looking
to
really
build
good,
upon.
man.
It's good.
Yeah, I mean, it's the kind of performances that you like to see early on. Especially, I mean, the Cowboys, not a bad side. I think they were missing a lot of impact from their centers. I mean, just personally, I had both their centers in a multi to score a try, and then I was paying close attention and never looked like they were going to get near the line. So I think the Cowboys, who have created a lot of opportunities, maybe from long range, I'd say in previous weeks with Hiku and Valentine Holmes breaking the line, getting them into field position. Yeah, the Cowboys didn't offer as much as I expected them to. I don't think their halves controlled the game as well as they can do. They have an extremely good pairing that they didn't play to their full extent, and a gritty performance shouldn't beat a great side. But yeah, full credit to the Doggies for getting it done.
Sweet.
Yeah, there's something wrong with this Cowboys team. The drop off from their last year with no real changes is kind of concerning to me.
The only thing that's changed is they're suffering injury tolls and the continuity, I think, within the squad. They've had no Nanai, they've had no Cotter. They're having dudes just drop in, drop
Yeah,
out.
that's
There's
a good
been
point, actually.
no consistency for them. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
They should be a lot better than that. We've seen other teams grind out results in a similar fashion, but yeah, it's
That's a fair
frustrating.
point. The thing I kind of was looking towards was maybe their defense, because most games I've seen this year, teams have found it real easy to roll yardage on them.
Yeah.
And they're getting plenty of opportunities in the Cowboys' strike zones to, make something happen. And, I mean, they do show glimpses of the danger that they had last year, but, yeah, there's just something a little bit wrong with this team right now.
Okay, that's the review out of the ways. We'll jump into the preview. So, first one off the rank, the Storm take on the Roosters at AAMI Park. Teddy out for the Chooks, Manu back, and he moves into fullback. Hughes back for the Storm. Simon, where do you see this heading?
Well, I mean, both of these teams coming off a win. The Storm probably playing the better form. After the most recent week, in terms of potential and what the teams can do, I think the Storm are really finding some stride. Trying to picture how this one runs out, I'd say the Roosters will look a lot more clinical early on. They've got a few more strike weapons, I think, to exploit on the edges. But what I think I see is the Storm playing their really good running game early on their sets. I think they put the Roosters under a lot of territory pressure. And then I think you see a close one going the Storm ways, 1-12.
Yeah, so the Storm are $1.80 favourites and the Roosters are $1.97 underdogs.
okay.
It's a pick 'em.
Okay, there we
It's
go.
pretty much
Yeah.
a pick 'em. And I'm in the same boat as you, Simon. I'm going to go Storm 1-12 at $3. I think they're going to be missing a key element to how dangerous their attack has been in terms of the Roosters. James Tedesco being out just sort of eliminates that threat around the ruck and him just popping up everywhere and supporting. So I think if you're splitting hairs, because it's really what you are doing with this close match, I'm going to lean with the Storm.
You put it perfectly. So both are sitting on 3 wins for the season. Now get this, the Storm averaged 20 points this season, the Chooks averaged 21, and they both concede an exact same average of 19 points per game. Wow. So it really is a pick-em. The last time these two teams played as well, it was only separated by 4 points within the match. Even though the Chooks beat the Storm in the last time they encountered at AMI Park, they've only won 4 of their last 10 matches there. The Storm have also won 5 of their last 6. I think Hughes back will be a big one for them. And I'm going to be riding with the Storm in this as well. So instead of doing the old best bets, I'm going to do chasing the perfect 8. So I'm going to pick a try scorer from each match. It looks like a tastier multi, and I feel like it's going to sit
Really
a little
tasty.
bit better. So my one chasing the perfect 8 in this, Jackson Polo, he's showed some great try scoring form in this as of late, and I like his chances here again in this one up against the Storm. Xavier Coates looking a little bit fringy on defense, and at $2.25 odds as well. Now the Bulldogs take on the Rabbitohs at a core stadium. Jordan, do you want to take us off?
Yeah, so you've got the Bulldogs here at $2.90 underdogs and Rabbitohs at $1.40 favourites. I'm actually going to be a little bit different this week and not pick a winner, but I'm going to pick the Bulldogs plus 8.5 money line at $1.90. I'm actually not convinced the Rabbitohs can win this. I think the Bulldogs have shown enough danger that they can sort of, break out and score tries at random moments. And the Rabbitohs haven't shown enough to me that they can score heaps of points to keep ahead of the Bulldogs, especially not by more than 8 points. So I don't know exactly who's going to win, but I'll take the Bulldogs plus 8.5. I reckon that's tasty.
Nice. Simon?
Yeah, that margin is definitely quite within the Bulldogs' realm of possibilities. Man,
Well, you're sitting there with a hard on for the doggies anyway.
yeah,
so-
look, I was just going to say, if you're a man who likes a little bit of extra risk like myself, take them head to head. But if you like a little bit of extra risk, take them 1-12. It's gonna be a close one, and I think they're gonna get the job done. Like we said, Rabbitohs last week looking flat, not really playing to their full potential. I think Latrell is definitely missing a lot of form than what we've seen in previous years. And I think he's a key piece to this Rabbitohs team. You're missing Alex Johnson, who's another strike weapon for the Rabbitohs. So, I think the doggies have got everything the Rabbitohs have with a few extra, differences. So, I mean, it's going to be close. And there's heaps of players out, or not heaps of players, a few players out. I mean, Ockenbaugh, Vitala Mariner for the doggies, so maybe a little bit of worrisome up front. That could be the difference here, but hey, I'm going to say doggies 1-12 on this one.
Nice. I like that Reynolds keeps a spot on the bench for them as well. Now, the Souths have won the last 3 matches at a core against the Bulldogs. Even though the Dogs play pretty well with a 58% win rate here, I like the Bunnies putting something a little bit more convincing together off the back of the disappointment that they obviously had last week. I think they're a team that's going to reflect on themselves hard, and they'll come out and want to prove themselves a little bit more in this one. So I'm going to be taking the Bunnies head to head. Now, chasing the perfect 8, I'm going Campbell Graham. He's had success against the Dogs in the past. Also this season, he's got a good matchup in the centres as well, and that's at $2.63. Now, the Cowboys take on the Dolphins at Country Bank Stadium. Lukey and McLean out for the Cowboys, and we see Cotter and Drinkwater return. Milford out for the Dolphins, which sees Katoa to 7 and Nikarima to 6. Where do you guys see this going?
Yeah, so you've got the Cowboys $1.37 favourites and Dolphins $3 underdogs. And the same money line as in the previous match we just talked about, but I'm going the opposite. I'm thinking the Cowboys are going to cover it at minus 8.5 at $1.90.
Drinkwater's a big one for that as well.
Drinkwater is big coming back. The injuries for the Dolphins are concerning. I think, the Cowboys can win. I'm a little concerned as to how much, but I think it will be comfortable and over the 8.5 point start. So that's what I'm going to ride.
Yeah, I mean, the other one to add there is Ruben Cotter. I think he's a really good forward for the Cowboys, and he adds a lot to that front. And if you're matching up the forward pack against these two teams, man, Cowboys, they do have not huge names, but workhorses, and you've seen that the Dolphins have got a few players that are aging out of their careers. So I think if the Cowboys were to get this done, it's through a high intense work rate, a high execution, and I think they can do that. And I think the way the Cowboys play the game works against the way the Dolphins want to run things. And missing Milford is tough. So even though I am riding
Sullivan is tough.
yeah. And even though I do ride hard for the Dolphins, I hopefully in your chasing your Magic you're picking Hamiso with his.
We'll get to that.
Hey, he's in the top try scorers. There's about 5 of them all on 6 tries. Dominic Young, just shout out to him. He's in there at the top try scoring at the top after only a few games with his 4-piece. So yeah, but to get to the game, it's definitely looking like a Cowboys, and I've got no shame in saying if you're taking some extra money, 11 to 20.
Yeah, so
okay.
Look, the injuries have riddled both teams badly this year. Unfortunately, the Dolphins, I like the Cowboys being at home in this. The half situation has cut the fins real deep. It'll be an interesting one to see how it all sort of forms together, but the strike power for the Cows, I think, will sort of ultimately get the job done for them. Now, God help us when the Dolphins take on the Warriors at home this season, because Simon's going to be on the field trying to grab Hammer's hammer. I'm not taking him. He's been on a tear at the moment, but I'll be looking at young Tommy Dearden in this. He crossed last week, and he's got himself a nice little matchup on that left edge as well. So at $3.50, I don't think that's anything you can turn your nose up at.
For a half,
I thought you might have gone Drinky, to be honest.
Honestly, I was really keen on it, but
First game back.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm going to stick with my guns. I think Drinky's going to get something, but I do think Tommy's going to cross, and at $3.50, that's some good money.
It's good odds for a half who I think he's got quite a few tries this season already. Like
he is, and he's really aggressive.
Yeah,
and
he's a
always,
run first half.
Yeah, I am really high on the on Dearden stock at the moment.
Manthers take
Manthers.
Sorry, the Panthers take on Manly.
The Themthers.
The Panthers take on Manly at Bluebet Stadium. Fisher Harris out for the Panthers. Sonny Luke is back. Tui Pelotu out for Manly. Saab and Schuster return. Who wants to kick us off on this?
Yeah, so Panthers $1.33 favourites. Seagulls $3.25 underdogs. Man, I didn't like what I saw from the Seagulls last week, and the Panthers are still a very clinical team that can dominate territory, dominate possession, and their offense started to really click in that game. So, hey, I remember a game last year where the Seagulls were coming in with some decent form, and Panthers really put them to the sword and sent them back down to where they belong, towards the outside the top 8. So, I'm thinking Panthers 11 to 20 is the play here, because I believe the Seagulls are a little bit better, and that's paying $4.20.
Well, I mean, I'm looking at the players coming in because it's a little bit more interesting than those who are leaving. You've got players like Saab, Schuster, Sipley, like they're going to make a big difference in this Manly side. I mean, it's a conversation we have quite a lot off the podcast about what value Saab can bring to a team. You know, for out and out pace, it's right up there. A few questions about how hard he runs the ball. It's not always consistent, but I think, you know, he's going to bring a lot of X factor to their edge for Manly. Schuster back into the halves is going to be huge for Manly. I don't think it's going to be as heavily weighted towards the Panthers as what might the odds are definitely saying. I would, if you're looking for a safe bet, take the Manly on maybe like a +7 or 8. But if you really want to chase a bit of extra dosh, a Manly head-to-head isn't outside the realms. I really am confident that Manly can put 80 minutes together, especially with the Panthers not being so consistent to start the year. I mean, they're on the upward trend. Last week was a great indication of what they can do, but wasn't against a side like Manly, so I'm picking a Manly win here.
Now the Panthers love playing Manly at the moment. They've won their last 6, and the Panthers look fantastic again on the weekend. As much as it much as it hurts, I'm going to be picking the Panthers. There's just too much firepower for me in the centres for them. I like both of those matchups. And for me, this is actually the game of the round as well. But the Birds
I like it.
The Birds have only won 5 of 17 here as well. Oof. Chasing the perfect 8, I'm going Isaac Tungo in this. Manly's right side defence outside of Hamoli doesn't look very flash at all. Centres have been picking up tries for them as well. Tungo had a double last weekend. I think he'll continue some form in this one, and at $2.10. Now the Broncos take on the Raiders at Suncorp. Frawley out, which sees Schneider move into the halves, and the Broncos are paying pretty much the same 17.
Yeah, Broncos are $1.20 favourites. Raiders $4.40 underdogs. Broncos at home again. Put on an absolute show last week against a lowly team, which I consider the Raiders right now with all their injuries and their half problems, and I consider them a lowly team as well. Yeah. So I'm just going to back it up with the Broncos 13 plus at $1.72. I reckon the Stars can show out. Reece Walsh can get involved and break them open again.
Yeah. Simon?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty much a fan of every team in the league at the moment, but Broncos...
Even Tigers?
I'm a fan of them coming last. But yeah, they have just a really fantastic way of playing the footy. They cut the ball well up. Like we've talked about with Reece Walsh, he cuts the teams open on the edges. Staggs runs great lines, creates opportunities. And like you said, Raiders haven't added a lot of people back into the squad, if anything. So, I mean, it's going to be a bloodbath. I mean, maybe...
And Chris has struggled under some kicking pressures at points this season, and Adam Reynolds has been in the best kicking form out of anyone in the comp, in my opinion.
Yeah, and he's going to get pressured.
13 plus is probably no money in it at all, but just take it.
$1.72.
No, it's worth it. It's worth it. Chuck it in there.
Now the Broncos are obviously the only unbeaten team coming into this. I think they go 6 for 6 at this. The Raiders hate playing at Suncorp. They've only won 4 of their last 19, and the Broncos look so much more complete again last weekend. Chasing the perfect 8, I'm looking at Jordan Ricky. No Whiten. He had 2 last weekend, and that right edge for Brisbane looks really good. So I'm going Jordan anytime, and that's at $3.75. Now the Titans take on the Dragons at Cbus Super Stadium. Brimo and Foran are out for the Tigers. Sexton and Campbell replace them. No real changes for the Dragons. Dragons have been up and down this year, which is what we talked about last time. They looked great against the depleted Dolphins last week, so can they put back-to-back performances together? I think they can. They flogged them 32-18 in round 2. Sexton will be an interesting watch for them coming into this, and also Campbell having to put together a full 80. So I'm going to go Dragons in a similar scoreline. As for chasing the perfect 8, I'm going Tyrell Sloan. He had one last time they played in round 2. He's shown how dangerous he is in support. Tyrell anytime at $2.30.
So is it Tanner Boyd and Toby Sexton in the halves?
Yeah.
Well, that might be the most lamest half pairing I've ever heard of. But in terms of this game, weird that they're playing the second game of the season
There's
already.
A few of them.
Yeah, Knights and Warriors as well. So bit of scheduling weirdness. But I'm going to stick with the Dragons too. You've got them here at $2.10 underdogs, and Titans at $1.71 favourites. Slight underdogs, I should say. But the fact that Brimson is out and Foran is out, we saw in their last game that they were really dangerous with them in, and we've seen glimpses of them being, a team that can run up the points and be very dangerous with them in the lineup. But as soon as they left the lineup against the Cowboys, fell apart. So
your best attacker and your leader that gets you around the park as well.
Yeah. I'm going to go Dragons 1-12, however, because I look at the Titans forward pack and I think, man, that's a really good forward pack, and that's a lot of groundwork's going to be established up front by them, and they're not going to be fully blown out in this game.
Especially being at home as well.
So Dragons 1-12 is a play I'm going with at $3.50.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to back the boy JT up on that one. The Titans, I mean, Foran, as old and washed as some may call him, myself, he has done a lot for that Titans team, who really were missing a great half. And for a team that we thought had all the pieces but couldn't put together, being the Titans, yeah, when he was playing well, they were playing well. And JT was saying the game that he got injured and came out, that they really did lose their structure. And I can't see, even though they had a bye last week, right?
Yeah, they did.
I can't see that extra week giving them some sort of miraculous, team chemistry. So, yeah, 1 to 12 is probably the safe bet in favor of the Dragons. Weird that they've got them as the underdog. I might have to do some research to see why that is, because looking at the teams on paper and the performances, you definitely put
it's
the
just
money
the
on the
home
Dragons.
factor.
I think it's a home factor, and I'm thinking it's a get back factor because they lost just recently. So I know
it could
NBA
swing.
betting odds do that. Like when a team's beaten another team recently, they usually drop the odds for the team that won, that lost the last game, just because they think, oh yeah, they'll come out with revenge.
This is obviously recorded on Tuesday as well, so team lists have just been dropped. Some people might see late changes, and you could see the money line shift.
Yeah.
Knights take on the Warriors at McDonald Jones. Tohu Harris back, Tamari Martin back, and Neokora is obviously out with suspension. Gamble out for the Knights, and Mann returns. Where do we see this going?
Yeah, so the odds are really generous in my opinion for the Knights. We've got pretty much a pick 'em. Warriors $1.83 and Knights at $1.92. So the TAB thinks this is going to be close, and the first game was very close, but the Knights did look good in their last game. The Warriors looked really good and resilient in their game, and I think the team that's growing more is the Warriors. And especially with Gamble out, he's been pretty instrumental in keeping that offense alive while Pong has been down. So I like the Warriors here, and I like them to win by more than a try. I'm going to drop the money line to -6.5, and that's $2.60.
I'm going to be quite a hard Warriors faithful here. I mean, you've got Tohu coming back into the team. You've got Gamble out, who, like you said, was doing a lot to cover the gap of Ponga. When we played early on, Ponga was what kept the Knights in it, I believe, with creating a lot of those opportunities.
The independent doctor is removing Caleb Ponga from the match.
Yeah, well,
Maybe
exactly.
the Warriors have had a little bit of luck this year.
Yeah, so that definitely was a big factor in the ending of that game when we first played them, with him being removed, getting the old sheep. What do you call it? The old Bo Peep he pulled out the fleet table.
I get it.
Yeah, and so I think Warriors to take 13 plus is probably a good option here. What I was saying in the Sharks game, what was really worrisome is the attack on the edges and us not marking up properly on their back moves and getting tries on the edges. I don't see that being an issue here. But what is really troublesome is Dominic Young. The fact that he got 4 tries and we haven't been...
The right edge could be an issue.
We
They're
really
good.
haven't shown us to be a good team in the air. So, who's that there? Hastings is still there on the field, and he's still going to kick to Dominic Young, and he's still going to get up in the air and create opportunities. So if we can keep the opportunities to a minimum of them attacking our try line, it'll be close to a 13 plus. But if we don't stop the roll on, they get into our half, maybe the penalties rack up, it'll be close. But I'm going Warriors win regardless.
Now the Knights have a 42% win rate for themselves just at McDonald Jones anyway, so they're sitting below par on that.
Okay.
I'm liking the Wires in this. We got the win over them in round 1. We're a lot more of a complete side as opposed to back then. We know where our groove is. We know how to grind out games, and if it is going to turn into a grind out, we know how to get the result. So I think the Warriors will get this done at a 1 to 12 though. As for chasing the perfect 8, I want to go Dom Young. He's obviously a choice in this, but I'm going Wade Egan. Only 2 hookers in the NRL era have scored in 5 consecutive weeks. Both have come in the last 2 seasons. The Cheese in 2021, Reece Robson last season, and I'm going Egan anytime, continuing this form. He's had a try every single week that he's played, and at $4 odds, you can't turn your nose up at that.
Not at all.
How good is it that you said something that I thought is true? How good is it that we can say the Warriors can grind out to get a result? Like,
It's fantastic to see.
It's a winning culture, and the winning breeds the culture. It's like every time they stack up those performances, the belief gets stronger, the the grit gets tougher and it becomes harder for these teams to push us into those positions. So, man, it is worrying for these teams. And the only thing I'm concerned of is that we become the team to beat. You know, people look at us like the Eagles or the Broncos as these serious top 4 contenders.
Now stop saying Eagles. I won't have that. Nah,
No?
there's too many bad performances from them. Now.
Okay, all right. Well, then we'll just stick with the Broncos because nobody's going to question that. You know, the one thing that teams at the top of the table, like the Panthers and the Storm, have had to deal with in previous seasons is that teams gun for them every week. It's a mini final every week, and the performances have to be top notch. So that's the one thing we're not used to, and could be our downfall. But I mean, hey, it's all positive signs at the moment.
If there's a team that rides off momentum, it's the Wires. We've got some good momentum going, and the camp is looking in a good place at the moment. Now the Tigers take on the Eels at Accor Stadium. Brett Naden's back for the Tigers and Simonson out, but we see Sean Lane return for the Eels. Where do you see this going?
Yeah, so you've got the Eels $1.23 favourites, Tigers $4 underdogs. I was, before I saw the team list, thinking, hey, I'll take a stab at the Eels 1-12. And then I saw Sean Lane back, and then I saw Dewey back in the halves, and I just thought, I got an icky feeling about this. I'm going to stick with the Eels 13+. I think the Tigers have just got all sorts of problems. I was just sort of expecting the Tigers to do what they usually do and stick around in the second half. But, I mean, with all the talent they've got there, I've got to go Eels 13+, $1.83 to kind of get this season back on track.
See, the way that the Tigers have shuffled their backs, I feel like this is probably the better lineup for it. Because Staines was on the wing right now; he's at the fullback, and you've got Dewey into the halves, which I always preferred him in the halves and at fullback. So for me personally, I think this backline will do better for them than what they were running last week. So that could be the difference. But the thing is, the Eels just look like they're going to be too good for them. Like whatever the Tigers are going to bring, even if it's close to their best, the Eels are just going to run with it. 13+ is probably a bit of a stretch. 1-12 Eels is definitely easy money, I'd say.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. Now the Eels have a
Got that
28-16
easy
record.
money.
Yeah. Eels have a 28-16 record against the Tigers. The Tigers have won. Oh, sorry, I'm reading this wrong. Against the Tigers and have won 8 of their last 9 matchups. The Eels have had a heap of rest as well coming into this, which I think will do them a world of good. We said earlier in the predictions that, in the reviews, that they look tired coming into that last matchup. They've had a lot of time to recalibrate. Sean Lane's back out on that edge, and I'm picking the Eels to run up something really nice again. Chasing the perfect 8, Gutho loves scoring tries against the Tigers. He's scored 6 tries in his last 4 against them, and the Tigers have also had a fullback score on them almost every single round this year. So Clint Gutherson at $1.83, that's where I'm going. As for my picks for it, so if you want to go through, I've got Jackson Polo to score up against the Storm, Campbell Graham up against the Dogs, Dearden against the Dolphins, Tango up against the Eels, Jordan Ricky against the Raiders, Tyrell Sloan against the Titans, Wade Egan against the Knights, and Gutho to round us off against the Tigers. Okay, so that's the NRL preview done.
Well, yeah. So we're moving on to how we did in our 2-leg multis and value bets.
No,
we don't want
We'll brush over
Let's
that. We'll brush
celebrate it.
over
You sure?
that. I
Yeah.
mean, they've got posts on Instagram where they can go look for that. So
You're
we don't
doing
need to touch
well.
on that.
You're doing well. That'll come up tomorrow. Jumping into Tuesday, head around the room, shine some light on past or present person that needs to have their jersey ripped the most. I'm going to jump the gun on you guys here. I'm going number 7 for the Wires, Shawnee J. Back-to-back incredible performances for him. Going into Shark Park as well, up against his old team, the old stomping ground. 1 try, 2 try assists, 2 tackle breaks, the line break assist. He's making his tackles this season as well. He's not missing them. I'm loving the leadership that he's bringing to this Warriors pack. He's really just sort of put himself out there, and it's great to see what he's doing on the field, but off the field as well. It's a huge thing for a Warriors community to see a guy like that interacting and giving them that amount of content as well around the actual team. So, Shawnee J, Coast Boy, I love what you're doing with the Wires, and yeah, I'm repping the jersey.
And he's looking like a star again. I mean, that's kind of the thing that the Warriors have been lacking, that star potential and star talent, but hey, the way he's playing, I'd put him in that category of like star half at the moment.
And everyone says he's back, but the thing is, he's not just back. He's doing things he's never done well before, like consistently making good, solid tackles on defense.
Oh, the Burgess hit.
No, well, anybody can knock a man over on one leg and fall him backwards, but that one's got an asterisk on it. But he is turning up on defense more consistently. So everyone says the old Shawnee's back. There's definitely some new characteristics to his game, and it's some heart on the defense. So,
Well said.
Good call.
I can go next. My jersey, well, not jersey. I'm going to be ripping some boxing gloves, and I'm going to be ripping Roy Jones Jr. I'm going back to the past again. 50-year-old Roy Jones just lost to Anthony Pettis in Gamebred Boxing over the weekend as a bit of a shell of himself. So I'm going to shine light on him because that's not how he should be remembered. He is one of the most insanely Matrix-level talented boxers in history. So 66-10 with 47 knockouts, held multiple world titles in 4 different weight classes, former undisputed light heavyweight champion, and holds the record for most wins in unified light heavyweight title history with 12. First former middleweight to win WBA heavyweight title in 106 years, and many consider him the pound for pound one of the greatest boxers of all time. Former Olympic silver medalist as well, and named Fighter of the Decade in the 1990s. And if you consider how stacked the 90s were with boxing talent, with Mike Tyson and Evander Holyfield and Lennox Lewis and stars like that, it's quite an achievement by him. He is, if you want to see a really elite boxing highlight mix, go look up Roy Jones Jr.'s highlights, because man, he is so insane. The stuff he would try to do, the sauce he would put on other opponents. Like, Roy Jones Jr. is definitely someone that deserves his flowers. I know he's still boxing and he kind of looks old and washed now because he is, but that's not who he is, man. Roy Jones is a bad man, and also created the "Can't Be Touched, Can't Be." That's his song. So
exactly. I was just going to say,
multi-talented athlete.
Yeah, the only boxing champion to have, or any, I guess, fighting athlete to have the best highlight video to their own song.
Two of their own songs.
And it'd be fire as well. Yeah, I mean, like you were talking about the source, if anybody else is a bit of an old boxing aficionado, like Prince Nassim. The guy had very much a similar style, but
maybe toned down a little bit from Prince, but better.
Yeah, way better stylistically and technically, whereas Nassim was almost like a showboating pro.
Yeah.
That's what you get when you have a little bit less size on you. You can take some risks. But Roy Jones Jr., man, great pick.
Yeah, I thought he deserved a bit of respect after losing to Pettis in the weekend.
No, I mean, that was tough. You could see he was just plodding around the ring, really not trying to press the pace. But there was some little taste of how quick he would. His I guess you would call it a bit of a
he would like slug around, and then boom, throw out a quick jab. You're like, oh, that's not slow.
Yeah, that was something that he kind of was quite good at in his heyday, was like almost like a jumping left hook.
Yeah.
Like he would take that lead step in and throw that hook. That was definitely, still there.
Very unconventional in his approach.
Yeah. No, it's a good pick. Yeah. So in the spirits of throwing it back.
Pause.
And because this event is coming up, and it is the Masters, so the Augusta Golf Club is hosting the Masters this week, which is pretty much the premier golfing tournament of the world. If you've seen the green jackets, you might have seen some highlights of Tiger Woods absolutely owning the show, winning more Masters than anyone else. There was one fella that actually beat Tiger Woods in his prime, and he came from the little old New Zealand. That's Michael Campbell. Everybody needs to put some respect on his name. A young, humble Māori boy, I think from down the Wellington ways, I think. He definitely took Tiger Woods on in his prime and took him to Sunday and won the Masters competition. Granted, he didn't really have...
That was huge news when that happened.
Yeah, granted, he hasn't really had any other success on the PGA Tour before or after that event, but you can rest on your laurels after winning that. So because of the Masters, and if you win the championship there, you get invited back every year.
Yeah.
And there's a winners' dinner that you get invited to before the competition starts, and all the winners of past years go. Yeah, you get treated like royalty.
He became a household New Zealand name, for sure.
Exactly. Yeah. So I mean, full credit to Michael Campbell putting New Zealand golf back on the world. On the world platform. Before that, there was nobody but Bob Charles, and he was playing in black and white television. So, yeah.
Couldn't tell you who that is. Sorry.
The best golfer.
Oh, Bobby Charles.
Yeah, Bobby Charles.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
BC.
Bobby.
When they
Oh,
were playing,
BC.
when they were playing with wooden clubs, he was a goat.
All right, well, that wraps up another episode from us. We'll look forward to reviewing our picks and enjoy the UFC over the weekend and up the mighty Wales.
Enjoy your long
Up
weekend.
the Waz.